recording. We're getting ready to go live now. And I gotta get this to go. Yep, go. And I think it's good. I think we're good. Yep, we're good. All right. All right, so we are live, sir.
Right on.
Oh, so we've been waiting for this one for a while. You know what I
Yeah, we
mean?
have.
Like,
Absolutely.
yeah. So, but before we start, let's let everyone know how we met. Like, a little rough waters there for a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Um. Well, I think we're both part of a group. It's like a freedom group or whatever, and it's I would say it's predominantly. I would say it's almost predominantly right leaning. Would you say?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say. Um, and you have. I think we were. What were we? We were arguing over. I think it was war powers to be specific,
It
wasn't it?
was. Yeah.
Yep. Um, and I like, admittedly, like I came in that day. I came in just being an asshole to like, I was, you know, I was kind of rude, but
You were adamant. You were definitely adamant. Yeah.
but to be fair though, the military jokes were jokes because I since you were in the service, I thought you would appreciate them. Like that stuff, I wasn't trying to be mean on. I was just being funny. But there's other stuff that like I said that was just dumb. You know, yeah. But
Like I said, after I had reread, I started to laugh. But initially, coming into the conversation, I just took it as, oh, this guy's just throwing out, you know, his little diatribe on, oh, I'm a veteran. And so, you know, I just mistook your pun for fun, and I just was like, "Oh hell no, man! We're gonna go down this road now."
yeah, and
Go ahead.
I'm a veteran, or I'm not a vet. I don't like calling myself a veteran, but I was in the guard. I was in the Army National Guard. I served for
Okay,
like 3.5 years or something like that.
you
Like,
served.
yeah, yeah, but uh, like I don't know. I
Well,
just don't.
don't downgrade your service, bro. I mean, you served.
Yeah, that's true. I did give, but that's how. That's why. But like when we were arguing, I think you asked me a few times, and I didn't say, like. I was like, "Well, does it matter if I served or not?" Because I don't like once I don't like using that as like it becomes like in my experience it becomes like a battle between like people's services. Well, like, well, I went here, and then it's like I went there, and I'm like, well, no. Like I just
Right. So
avoid that.
right,
Yeah.
in order to be a patriot, you had to serve. You couldn't just be a citizen who
Yeah.
hadn't served. I totally get it.
Yeah, so I was like, I'm gonna cut that part out, and then that way we can focus on the argument. But
Yeah.
like uh, to your credit, like you were the first, you're the first person to humble yourself and squash the hostilities, I guess we could call it. And I like I said, God was pulling on my heart too, like, and I just it just it didn't get to me, like I didn't cave fast, fast enough. You caved before I did, so
Well, we went on for a while before I did any humbling. So, and like I said, it wasn't me that humbled Gerard. That was the Holy Spirit, bro.
yeah,
Make no mistake about that, because, like we said off camera, if it wasn't for God in us, our flesh is not prone to say, I'm sorry.
yeah, especially as men, like
Right. Yeah,
in
exactly.
a political debate.
Anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but like uh and like I mean, I think you probably see me. You still see me. I'm sure you still see me in there. I throw out. Now I think I mainly make posts about like factions and stuff like that a lot. Like not choosing not being a part of a faction or going along with the faction, like
Yeah.
think or group think, right? But like we were talking about earlier, like it is hard. Like it took me a while to break free of that and then be able to like to just think outside of uh I mean being a Republican. That used to be like a main uh I used to be so proud of it. Anytime I argue, like, well, Republicans, they ended slavery, all that stuff. But then I looked at Lincoln, and I'm kind of like, now, so from a constitutionist perspective, Lincoln was kind of a tyrant, and it wasn't kind of, he was a tyrant. He did some terrible things. Sorry, I'm getting off on a, but but yeah,
I
that's how.
look. I think Yeshua. I think any if we come from a biblical worldview, we have to accept the fact that we're all fallen.
Yeah,
So, and what each of us, um, it's easy for you and me to give an opinion about what President Lincoln or George Washington or James Madison or Ronald Reagan or Bill Clinton or anybody did, Barack Obama, uh, well, Joe Biden excluded because he wasn't there. Um, um, but if we're not in that position at that time and what they got to deal with, and specifically you brought up Lincoln, so you know the the whole country was at a standstill morally because of slavery, and he's fighting people in his own cabinet. He's fighting his own demons. He lost the son in the war, so you know
yeah.
what what choice did he have to other than to be a kind of a tyrant?
Well, like but see, like for us, we're always taught that it was about slavery. For Lincoln, it was not. For the North, it was not about slavery. For like people in the North, like
Right,
some people in the North, it was about slavery. Like, and then that's why they fought on their. But for as like from a governmental standpoint and Lincoln's standpoint, because Lincoln even said if he could end the war and keep slavery or stop from going, and unite the states again and still have to keep slavery, he would. Like so, like for him, and really what started the for the North is that they had tariffs on the South, and then when the South was like, oh, we're gonna leave, but for the South it was definitely about slavery. Like they
right,
even in like most of their succession documents, one of the main offenses or thing complaints they say is why they're leaving is slavery. But for
right,
the North, it was about control and money,
right.
um, which there's a book called oh it's oh man uh, I'll send it to you. I can't remember what it's called now,
Okay,
but it's something about Lincoln and it goes in detail about like why Lincoln isn't the hero it's like how the history is portrayed different than it actually it was. And so
yeah.
like I read that book and I had like I lost like I've lost so many heroes like as I look through history and I'm like, man, I got to give that one up. Um, but yeah, like Lincoln, and the only reason I like when I criticize and stuff is because when I look in the Bible and you see when the leaders are wrong, God always raises up people to stand against them and
Right.
to change. And when the people don't stand up against them, the nation falls or is punished. So like I don't want to live in a like I'm I don't want to live in that time. That's like yeah. And so
Well, it's gonna take a lot of us now during this time, uh, and honestly, with the whatever you want to call it, deep state, whatever, we definitely do not live in the same republic that was created in our founding. There's absolutely that is not our current government,
oh yeah.
and so there's the government's too big. There's too many uh, places for people to uh, have control and power to influence, even our own representatives. I mean, for God's sake, their own staff. make the decisions because the lobbyists are pushing them to go in a certain direction instead of the direction that the constituents voted for the representative to. So
Yeah.
everything is just it's I'll use a military term, FUBAR, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just it's not good, and it leads to things like what we're going to talk about, what happened to my daughter, because you've
Exactly.
got these the people in the medical cabal, the CIA, the DoD, DARPA, all these agencies, they come up and they plan for things because, like you said, it's about money and control.
Yep. And that's so. And that's my argument. The thing that we were arguing over when we first met. That same thing. Like when I started arguing about war, because people always bring up the War Powers Act. So then I went and read the War Powers Act, and now I was like, well, what did the founders say about war powers? So I started going back through the founders and like is it James? It's not James Madison. It's maybe it's James Madison. Oh my gosh, I can't remember. I should have prepared better because well, I don't know what topics sometimes I'm going to bring up. So, but
Uh-huh.
uh, but even he talks about like the president has no powers, and then they describe what the war powers are. And
Right.
the reason I like that's important is because like during Biden and like all the other times when it's a Democrat, Republicans say when they go to other countries and they drop bombs and stuff, or they go to start wars, they'll say it's unconstitutional. But then when their guy gets in, it becomes all of a sudden it becomes constitutional, right? And it's like, well, and like I thought we were over with that, and then when Trump got into office, he's talking about he ran on being like peace, the president of peace. If you vote for them, we're going to war. They said all these things, and then he got in, and then we went to war anyways. And we like Venezuela. All right, like okay, and now Iran, and they were talking about putting boots on the ground when Israel was saying that they weren't going to put boots on the ground. They just wanted us to, right? And it's like, well, I don't want my sons and daughters to die for somebody else's war, but
Right.
yeah, that's when it goes back to the when you allow one branch to exceed its power, like the other branches will too, like the Congress, the courts, like yeah, like you said, the government gave the medical, like the hospitals and stuff, when they said they would pay them for COVID stuff, and then I think it was you that pointed out that pretty much gave them a legal shield that any like misdoings that they did during the time for COVID, they were protected. So it's
Yeah,
like,
that's the Prep Act.
yeah. So I was like that's why I bring that stuff up. It's not, and I bring it up a lot, and people are like, oh, you hate Trump. Like it's not about Trump. Like for me, it's not about Trump. It could have been Biden. I was saying some of the same stuff. I didn't know as much as I know now, but I was against the war under Biden too. But it has little to do with like who's in office, but it has more to do with like I know that unless you rein in government, you're going to lose liberty. The more power
Yeah,
government has, the less power the citizen has. So, um,
absolutely correct. There is no arguing against that statement. And if anybody does, then they really don't understand liberty and freedom.
and most people don't want freedom. That's what they. So like, that's what I find is most people don't want. They don't care about the actual freedom. You could let's say it's a plantation, right? And they're on the plantation and they're slaves. They don't care like whether they escape or not, or they don't care that they're slaves. They just care who's managing the plantation and what entertainment and what little extra things they get
They can get.
to make them comfortable.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it drives me nuts. It does because I want to be free, but I'm surrounded by people who want to be slaves, and it's hard to convince other people. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah. That's that's the cognitive dissonant part that we gotta, you know, break through for, so many people, unfortunately. But um, yeah, I'm glad that you brought up a number of different topics because I definitely be interested in discussing those in the future with you too.
Yeah, Yeah. Well, let's get to the. You're right. Let's get to the topic at hand of today. Out like a yeah, like just go ahead and start and break into it. I don't really.
Okay, so would you like me to just kind of give you a chronological um, explanation of what happened
Yes, sir.
in our in
Yes,
our
please.
in our case? Okay, so I'll just introduce myself. My name is Gerard Augustine. I'm married to Pamela. We've been married 42 years.
Awesome.
We God gave us 7 children. We lost a boy named Nicholas during miscarriage,
Sorry.
and we homeschooled our other 6 kids. We lived out in California for 21 years and moved to Fort Wayne in 2004. And like everybody, we were very concerned with what was going on during the beginning of COVID, the way it was being explained to the rest of civilization.
Yeah.
And myself and my family, um, my wife and I, early on, more so me, just because I'm this a nerd to research stuff. Um, I along with a friend of mine out in Arizona and my cousin in New York, um, we're like you, Yeshua. We like question everything, and
Yeah.
so we all just would be throwing stuff at each other about, well, okay, what is this agency saying? Let's go find out
Yeah.
some more information about it, and that's kind of like what we were doing. So I was coming at, um, you know, COVID, uh, pretty much. I mean, I don't know how much the audience understands the origins of it. We can get into that later,
Did
but
you
all right,
Sorry. Did you were you aware of it when it was in China before it came?
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. That's why I
yeah.
was yeah.
So one of the first cases was in the state of Washington. Then they had a couple of folks in California, and then and that's like newsworthy stuff. And then we started hearing about the outbreak in Wuhan, and the narrative was, well, it was at an outdoor market,
Yep.
and
Yep.
so the narrative was that it was bat to human correlation,
Yeah.
and then we get to um, so like by December, you got the Chinese are really concerned about what's going on. You get to January, and President Trump is shutting down air flights coming out of China. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
Interestingly, the Chinese government stopped flights coming into their country, but they didn't stop flights leaving their country. You got to ask yourself, well, why was that?
Yeah.
Now, this is just my own opinion,
Yeah.
but at the time, our trade policies with China was kicking their ass. They
Yeah.
were going down the tubes quick, and I I think that they looked at, well, if the virus gets replicated quickly around the world, then the world's economies are going to shut down. And China's not stupid. They're supplying chain supply to the whole world.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
they're going to continue. They're going to be fine. Well, now their economy can rise up while everybody else is slowing down.
Yep.
So
It hit the
that was
trucking
that was just
business
a
hard.
theory that I had. And so then, so you're at, uh, December 2019. You're at January of 2020, and then you get to March, March 4th through like the 13th. We start getting the COVID response team with Dr. Death Fauci
Yeah.
and Deborah Birx and Mike Pence. Let's not forget him. He
Yeah.
was a cohort in this too. And and the president, Donald Trump, um, they initiate the emergency use authorization. And what that did basically was end the use of hydroxychloroquine, which, if people don't understand, the government was sending out by the billions to hospitals. Hospitals were treating originally patients with hydroxychloroquine. If you don't know the way hydroxychloroquine works on the cell, with zinc, basically the hydroxychloroquine breaks the cell membrane of the spike protein so that the zinc can go in and kill the virus.
Okay.
That's just a basic. Okay. I'm
Yeah.
not a chemist. I'm not a virologist. I'm not an epidemiologist. That's just what I understand and what I've learned. But
The layman's
it's
answer.
it's
Yeah.
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 It's and I like layman's answers because then I can start learning. Okay, what other questions I need to ask, and then hey, now we have AI, and just because you have AI, you still got to be careful because it'll present you a lot of good evidence, but you still got to do the research from what the AI gives you.
And
Okay.
it makes stuff up sometimes. Sometimes
Yeah.
it'll
Yeah.
take things and it'll smush them together, and it'll say it came from a study or a document that doesn't exist. So you got to be
Absolutely
careful.
true. And still, right now, we know that AI is advancing and learning, but still,
Yeah.
there are humans that are developing the software for that AI. Those humans have a bias. It'd be
Yeah.
like if I develop an app and I want AI to influence it, I'm probably predicated to put my bias into that AI software.
Yeah.
So you're right. You got to be careful.
Even
So
unintentionally, you don't have to intentionally do it. But a lot of times we don't think about how much our actual bias affect like what we do and say, and um even like the facts that we'll accept. Like we can be presented with like actual facts, but some parts of our mind just won't accept some of those facts
yeah,
if it doesn't conform. So
yeah.
we do it unintentionally sometimes. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So then we're at that point, and that's when the government went from they're sending out hydroxychloroquine, and a lot of this stuff wasn't made public. You had
Yeah.
to be the kind of person like I and you and other people where when things are not being made public, you've got to have other sources to be able to go to find this stuff out. So
Yeah.
at that time, if you recall, anybody in the audience, if you might recall, there were a number of doctors from the very beginning that had a lot of issues with what the government was talking about coming out with an experimental vaccine. Now they publicly said what we're going to be introducing, these vaccines are experimental. To the government's credit, or not, they slipped up, whatever. They
Yeah.
made that statement. And so when they said experimental vaccine, I said, hell no. Because
Yeah.
any vaccine that I ever knew about had 10 to 20 years of studies, hundreds of millions of dollars, clinical trials. I mean, there's a whole role that has to go into, is this safe and effective? Okay.
And even
And
those aren't really safe, and because
no,
they
and
they cover. I mean, they don't cover. Well, they do cover it up, but they have. You do have adverse. What do you call that when you have
effects.
when you take it,
Yeah.
and those. And it's the way the court is set up. It's how the law is set up. So you like a lot of that is you don't realize, you don't get to see it because it's all like, even if they settle, it's not like, it's not very like, it's not
They
very
don't
public.
admit
So
guilt. They
yeah.
don't admit guilt. No. And so um when you have the emergency use authorization come out, and you find out, well, why are they not still allowing the choice to use hydroxychloroquine? Why did they say, yet that's it, no more hydroxychloroquine? This is the mandate. This is the only thing that you can take to stop the spread and slow the symptoms. This is
Yeah.
this is the holy grail now, folks. Listen to us because we know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
That started to make me question, okay, well, why would they do that? Now, also, this isn't like um giving me any cred or anything, but I did go to school to train as a surge tech. So I did have to study certain things in science and biology and
That's cool.
pharmaceuticals, and having been uh, assisting in on 167 procedures, you know, you have the experience of talking to doctors and you see certain things,
Yeah.
and you know, so in my mind sight, I'm always thinking about, you know, well, I've seen trauma, I've seen surgeries. There's a place for drugs. There
Yeah.
absolutely. I'm 67, and I looked at my drug history record of what vaccines I had, and it was 10 shots, and it was actually measles, mumps, rubella, pertussin. So it was
Yeah.
like four.
Was that before the military or after?
No, this is before the military. This is like
Okay.
when I'm a young child and
Oh
my
yeah, yeah, yeah.
parents are
Okay, sorry.
taking me to the doctor,
Yeah, yeah,
and so you look at that vaccine schedule compared to what they're doing now to children, and
yeah,
then what they were going to roll out with COVID. It's like, okay, there's just too much nonsense, and so I wanted to find people who were thinking like me, doctors,
yeah.
nurses, who's out there right now when they roll this experimental thing out, and you start hearing people like Dr. Mary Bowden, the doctor who
Sounds
was
familiar.
down at Houston Methodist, I think, the hospital. Uh, she started challenging her medical directors, and she basically did pulmonary work. Um, Dr. Peter McCullough,
That one.
Dr. Pierre Corey, Dr. Simone Gold. She actually got arrested and was in jail for 90 days.
Hmm.
Um, you got uh, Dr. Judy Mikovits. There are so many doctors. There were over 80,000 doctors that signed the Barrington Declaration from around the world.
I think I
Doctors,
heard about that. I know that.
scientists,
Yeah.
epidemiologists, virologists. That's a lot of people who have clinical experience to say, slow your roll. This is not good. And
Yeah.
the government just
Well,
didn't care.
Trump too. Like, so Trump did the was it light
Operation
speed?
Warp Speed.
Yeah. And my dad got the shot, and the only reason my dad got the shot is because Trump said to get it. So, and I was like, Dad, you might want to wait, like just wait a little bit, cause just let's just see for a second.
Yeah.
But he was like, no, I trust Trump, so and he went and got it, and I'm like, dude, cause uh, like I just had like I had a bad feeling about the shot in the first, like just in general. Um, but yeah, like the warp speed thing, like I was like, this is a bad idea. And then and then Fauci went like, this is what made me, because when I was watching it was in China, so like I knew to get masks before, like I went and got masks before it was here, right? So like, and that's before I had read anything on it. I just knew that like they're wearing masks, so I was like, well, I'll just go get some masks,
Yeah.
just in case like that actually is because I figured when people fly out here, it's gonna go off the shelves. Like you're not gonna be able to find any, and that's what ended up happening.
Yeah.
But but then he was like, well, you don't need masks. And then he was like, and then after a while, he's like, well, you need masks. And I'm like, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. Like, hold on. Like, what's
Right.
going on here? Like, you don't need it, you do need it. Like, what's happening? And then, like you were saying, you had to look at. So, like, what I ended up doing was, there was actually studies that were coming out, and like one of the masks said, or one of the studies basically said that like, um, the virus, the size of the virus, like the holes in the mask would be like the equivalent of like I forget, like a 1 mile high like tunnel or whatever, and then 1 mile across, and then like a pickup truck driving through it. So
Right.
like it doesn't stop anything.
Right.
And in the study, they didn't want to say that it was useless, so they worded it some way that it like if you're reading between the lines, you could tell it was
Yeah.
useless, but they couldn't actually say that it was that. So they had to come up with some other like at the end like, well, it's still better than nothing, or But yeah, sorry, I
Yeah.
didn't mean. But yeah, I get
No,
what you.
you're that's um the good point you're making is for a lot of us, your dad, that was a good point. People were listening to these folks in the government, and they're telling everybody like what they say is what you need to listen to because this is real serious. And it was. Nobody, I don't discount that the virus was deadly.
No,
It
it
just,
was. It sucks.
when you looked at the evidence about the mortality rate, it was actually very low.
Yep.
And what they didn't tell us from the beginning was they should have treated us like co-partners, uh, because we're the government, not those people. And this is what everybody forgets about where we are in this country. I don't care if you're a freaking screaming idiot leftist or you're a full-on righty. Um,
Yeah.
you know, you got to remember the citizen is the government. Those people are handed authority that's vested from us. And so if they don't want to treat us with respect and tell us the truth, then we're going to have problems.
Yeah.
That's just the way it's going to be.
And the
And
thing too is like, well, I said Trump. The only thing, the reason why I had the issue, because he said to take it, and then when he was running for this term, when he was talking about Fauci, he said that he didn't regret it, that it was the right thing to do. That he bragged about how he followed everything that Fauci did, and like. And I'm like, man, like you're on the other side of this now. Like,
yeah,
all the evidence is there. All you have to do is look. Like this isn't really something to be bragging about. A lot of people
no,
died. Like it, it's just it makes me mad.
yeah,
And but
we'll get to that in a
yeah,
minute.
yeah, sorry.
So the the timeline, we're at like mid March, and so now I'm just going full on looking at people who are against the rollout of the vaccine and listening to all the evidence. And so as the months go on, you're starting to get a lot of doctors who are going with treating patients with hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, quercetin, coenzyme Q10, zinc, bromelain. Um, Dr. McCullough's got a really good product to denature or eliminate the spike protein. It combines nattokinase, uh,
Yeah, yeah,
quercetin,
yeah,
and
yeah. I
bromelain.
seen that. Yeah,
And I just found out another company that I got in contact with the other day. They're in Switzerland, and they're specifically making an augmented product. Um, it's NAC, and
hmm.
normal NAC, the molecule, uh, for whatever reason, doesn't um, break up the spike protein as well as when it's augmented. So all that basically means is they're able to engineer the molecule so that it can
Target the spike
target
protein.
the spike protein and eliminate it because
Yeah,
um, the, uh, the other problem is finding out a lot of people that have COVID long haul, they're constantly just feel fatigued, brain fog, just sick. I'm dealing with it, and so if the government would have come out at the beginning and said to people, "Hey, look, We've got this experimental vaccine that we're working on. We're going to roll it out. We believe it's safe and effective, um, but we've got some issues that we got to work out.
Yeah.
Some of the trials have not been favorable, um, and so we want people to make a choice. We're seeing a lot of success with hydroxychloroquine, so we're going to continue to um, supply these things to pharmacies around it. That would have been the right way to go
Yeah. Yeah.
because what they weren't telling us was the truth. And the truth was the safety studies that were being done by the FDA, because there's like three components, right? People got to understand that vaccines and uh, their whole uh, study, where they come from, how they're developed, is done through a special department in the Army. And so you got the Army, you got the pharmaceutical industry, and you got the government.
Yeah.
And so the the Army has got an an incentive because they're looking at bioweapons
Yeah.
because they're trying to protect the country against a bioweapon from another country. So it
Yeah.
makes sense that they're going to investigate viruses, bacteria, all kinds of stuff to come up with these different countermeasures.
Yeah.
And so when you as a citizen aren't being told, because most people are not going to do what I'm doing. They're going to work, they're taking care of their kids, they're managing their portfolio, they're just trusting what they're hearing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the way we are. And um, if you're not part of the unvaccinated, which those of us that never took the jab, we were by far in the minority. We were the conspiracy theorists. We were the ones that
Yes.
were
Yeah.
causing harm. Okay, and so
Yeah. That's
you
right.
know, people getting doctors are getting canceled. Uh, People in the government who open their mouth are getting canceled. We're all getting gaslit, and you know, you had to be very strong in your core belief of body autonomy. I mean, the abortionists run around, my body, my choice, my body, my choice. Why did
Yeah.
that not pertain to this event? No,
Y-
you had to do what they were saying, and
Yeah.
so we go from we're at mid March, and now we're rolling along in life. They're doing their masks, and then, like you said, and then okay, well, they're going to relax the masks because they were getting a lot of pushback. We're doing social distancing. Well, how the heck did that even freaking make any sense? You
I
know,
don't know.
everything's getting shut down. The economy's getting dumped, and
Except for the big box
that could lead
stores.
us down another conversation another day,
Yeah.
which you and I have talked about. Why would they want the economies to tank? And so, for this conversation, we'll focus on what's going on with my daughter.
Yeah.
And so, I'm working uh, for a company, driving a dump truck, working 60 plus hours a week. My wife was working at Kroger. We were, in that class of people that they said, we were needed to be at work. Uh, you, I forget the term that they called those type of workers.
Uh. Oh.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking
Like
about.
not necessary, but uh.
We'll call it necessary right
Yeah.
now. And so, um, I'm listening to the news. I'm doing my thing. I'm talking to my daughters at home. And we're just living life. So we get through the summer of uh, 2020. We go into the fall of 2020. Now we're starting to get some traction in time, and the more and more evidence that's coming out, the more and more doctors that are treating people. I'm convinced now that these alternative therapeutics are definitely the way I should go for my family.
Yeah.
And so Dr. Pierre Corey started uh, a a company because the hospitals that he was working with, because he was going against them, he was losing his hospital privileges, and so he and his partner started uh, FLCCC, which was um, a a company that basically was providing concierge treatment, telehealth, um, and he came up with a protocol for this virus, and it included ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine,
Mm.
quercetin, zinc, high dose of vitamins, um, high dose of vitamins like
Yeah.
IV type, um,
Hmm.
a nasal spray medication called budesonide, which basically had four components to it. It reduced the inflammation in the lungs. It um, basically uh, reduced the cytokine effect that was causing inflammation. Um, and there were two other parts to it that budesonide is effective with. I, I forget currently.
Yeah.
And so, you take it in nebulized form. You could take it as a nasal spray, like a zero point 0.2 uh, microgram spray. But during COVID, if you were to go into the hospital, and anytime during COVID, most doctors would have been prescribing albuterol, but budesonide would have been another one. And so only the doctors that I was following were prescribing this. And so I made a copy of the protocol and had it on hand in case anything happened. I'm
Yeah.
gonna go in armed, and because I'm aware of what the hospital's protocols are.
Yep.
They're following the CDC's mandates,
Yep.
and the CDC's mandate was, if you were in the hospital and God forbid you went into the ICU, they were going to put you on remdesivir and a ventilator.
Yeah.
They were not going to
That's what.
treat the pneumonia.
Yeah.
There was very good uh, evidence and reason why they were doing that. And the hospitals were co-opted because there was an agreement when they signed the emergency use authorization that if the hospitals wanted any funding from the government, that money goes to the states. And so the states give out funding to their local hospitals. So
Yeah.
this is all one big cabal now. And so
Yeah.
money flows downhill from the government.
There,
And
there
if
were some nurses. So like I did a well, Facebook now deletes your lives after a certain amount of time, but way back, so I have a whole. I lost the password to an account on YouTube, but I had a whole slew of videos on because other people. I wasn't big enough to get demonetized, right? So I could put whatever I wanted on my channel. So I did. There was like two or three different nurses that had videos, and they were talking about how they knew, like, what they realized they were killing people, and
right,
they started talking about the alternative, treatments and the things that they were doing, and that
yeah,
they couldn't just sit there and like conscious, like, on their, it was on their conscience that they couldn't do this and kill people. And so like I did those videos and stuff. I wish it would still be up. Facebook would have kept it, and then I had the other account, but
I've got
basically,
I've got plenty of those nurses. I can forward those to you.
oh
I'm
yes,
following the same people, bro. You're right.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It,
it's
it's
crazy.
just yeah, and that's a good point. Crazy, because you and I and a lot of people are thinking critically. We're using logic and common sense, and to try to apply that to what was going on, it didn't fit, and
Yeah,
that's what was making me furious, because how 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 are you supposed to protect yourself if something bad happens and the hospitals are all co-opted now? And so, um, just for context, the the emergency use authorization, um, basically the CMS, the agency that runs Medicaid, Medicare, they put in place a funding mechanism to the hospitals so that if they prescribed remdesivir, they were going to get a bonus. If they prescribed ventilators, they were going to get a bonus.
Yeah.
And for remdesivir, it was around 20%. The ventilators, they basically upmarked the pricing, and so um, in my daughter's case, her being in the ICU, um, she had Medicaid, and for 40 days being in the ICU, you know, her bill was. I'm just looking at the corollary that CMS had for an average patient. We're talking upwards of 375 to $450,000, and that's not including the
Uh,
medication. So the incentive for the hospitals
yeah.
was there, and then also the doctors and the nurses, they had to, in order to keep their job, they had to follow the protocol. That was what they agreed to when they got their jobs.
Yeah.
And so if they wanted to say, screw this, man, my conscience is more important than going along with this, okay, go ahead and resign. Where are you going to go? If they worked at
Yeah.
Parkview, Lutherans following the same protocol, DuPont's following the same protocol, IU Med, everybody was following the same protocol. Where are
That's
they going to
true.
go to work?
That's true.
So if you didn't have deep pockets, you didn't have any choice. But
Yeah.
I argue bullcrap. You did have a choice. You morally made the decision to help facilitate the death of human beings.
Yeah.
Now, Yeshua and I have made the choice for this interview that we're not going to make a statement that these protocols murdered people. What we can say is that the mandate led to decisions that precluded other alternative treatments, other opportunities for people to get well, and so um, we, we didn't have that choice. So
Yeah.
so I've got a protocol. I've got I've got compound pharmacies in town. I know I can go get um, ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, whatever I need. You know,
Yeah.
um, and so we had at the fall of 2020, our household got the flu, and so right away, of course, you're thinking, oh wow, well, this is COVID, and
Yeah.
for whatever reason, um, it obviously wasn't that COVID strain. It was just
Yeah. Well,
it
I
was
mean, it
just
was
a
flu
flu,
season, so
right?
like
And
that's the
so
funny thing is when COVID hit, all of a sudden the flu disappeared. Even though
exactly,
every year at this time of the year, the hospitals are full, the rooms are full, the morgues are full, like because this is it's flu season. Like,
yeah, exactly,
yeah,
yeah. And um, so we just did what we would normally do to overcome the flu, and it lasted its week course, and we're back at it. And so then we get into we're at Christmas of 2020, and we get into the new year. We're now into 21, and more time is rolling through, and so um, this is where I screwed up um, as a dad protecting his family. Um, and this is just my guilt, my regret speaking. Okay, um,
yeah,
I started getting comfortable in just getting a lot of evidence to back up my belief about where we were at, what the government was doing. Um, we started seeing all these cases of people, getting injured from the jab, and so I got complacent. I wasn't as proactive and steeled in my resolve the way I was when it first came out. Even though I knew what to do, I just wasn't like, you know, I didn't go to the uh, place where, you know what, I'm just gonna have this stuff on hand in my house so that if anything happened, I could deal with it.
Yeah.
I didn't do that. So knowledge is good, but if you don't have understanding, and in my case, if you didn't have a stockpile, um,
Yeah.
that's that's more important.
Well,
And so,
knowledge without, if you don't act on the knowledge, then
yeah,
it's,
yeah.
yeah.
And so that complacency was, um, again, I'm speaking from guilt and grief, and I've had my psychiatrist, family, everybody tells me, Gerard, you didn't do this to your daughter, blah blah blah. That's great. When you're a parent, all you're thinking about is your kids.
Yeah.
You have these human beings that are responsible. You're responsible for, and you know they they're little. They get older. They're gonna make choices because you're teaching them. How to be good human beings, how to be good partners in society, how to critically think for themselves. You can't always make the choices for them, all that stuff. And then, when they get older, you're watching their life and you're like, yeah, man, good win, way to go. Oh, you're going to learn from that one. Okay. And so um, we get to Thanksgiving of 21.
Yeah.
And in my home, it was my wife and myself and my older daughter Angelina, and Stephanie was in the middle, and then Karina is my youngest. We have another daughter, but she's estranged. We haven't seen her in 18 years.
Yeah.
So if you're a praying individual, pray for my daughter Caitlin, please, that God would work in her heart and bring her to repentance, and that um, at least that she would acknowledge Jesus Christ as her Savior, and one day, hopefully, be able to have an opportunity to talk with her. And so we get to
Amen.
Thanksgiving, and now we get to Christmas of 21. I got really sick. I go to the VA ER. I I had to get wheelchaired in. I could not. I had no energy. I was like, this is really not good.
Yeah.
And so they kept me in there for 11 hours. They gave me IV therapy. I had, um, you know, different medication. And the doctor um, had a discussion with me about treating me with monoclonal antibodies. And a monoclonal antibody is just the antibodies from an individual that's infected. And so obviously they remanufacture it and they take the genes, and they do what they need to do to make these um, antibodies for people to help resolve the
Yeah.
virus in you, right? And
Yeah.
so the doctor and we were conversing because my symptoms were like 10 days already. And so she was like, dude, I don't know that this is going to help you now because your body's now developing antibodies toward this. And she said, if you're not dead yet, she said, thank God, uh, you're probably going to survive. And so I read the literature, and I agreed with her. And
Yeah.
I get home, and for like a month, I'm on the recliner. I can't move. I had breathing treatments I had to take. I just wasn't myself.
Mm.
I insomnia, fatigue, whatever the virus did to me, man, I was wiped out. And so
Yeah.
I went in on Christmas Day of 21. So if I'm in a household with my wife and my three daughters, and I'm tested positive on December 25th, just do the math. If you go back with any the CDC, the FDA, the state of Indiana, Allen County, they're all going to have your infectious uh, timeline
Yeah.
uh, probably 10 to 14 days before where you're tested positive. That's when you first probably got exposed. And
Yeah.
so if you go 10 to 14 days, I'm at the 25th, but now my exposure to my family is probably going to be another 10 to 14 days. We're all in the household together.
Yeah.
But in not just in my mind, but the research that I'm reading, they were exposed as long as I was because we're all there in the house together.
Yep.
And so my my wife never got sick. She never tested positive. None of us took the jab. My
Yeah.
older daughter and my younger daughter, they got bacterial pneumonia. And well, let me just back up a little bit. So on the 25th, I went into the ER. We go to the 29th, and my 34-year-old daughter Stephanie and my at the time would have been 37-year-old daughter Angelina are feeling really bad too. They're like wiped out, and I'm wiped out. But I got to get them to the hospital. So they walk me and get me into the car. My wife and my younger daughter, who are feeling not as bad. I get the two daughters, Angelina and Stephanie, and we go to Parkview Regional Medical Center. I figure I'll just go to the trauma hospital. We'll go there, and they go to the ER. And before they get out of the car, I told them, I said, you tell the doctor you want chest x-rays and blood cultures. You want to know what you're actually dealing with. And I mean, I could listen to the girls. I could hear their labored breathing. We had an oximeter at home. Their blood oxygen level was already at 90%. So they were hurting units.
Yeah.
They're in there and they come out after 3 hours. And I asked them, did the doctor give you chest or x-rays and the blood cultures? And they said, well, he wasn't a doctor. I said, well, he's a physician assistant. Yeah. I said, why did he tell you no? Because he said that we didn't need it. He gave them each a steroid shot, albuterol, and Mucinex, and said in 5 days you're going to be better. That's a physician assistant who Parkview Hospital hired, and this is during the height
Yes.
of COVID. We're at December 29th of 21. Now,
Yeah. That's.
whoever's listening to this, you go to your brain right now and you ask yourself, in what world would a doctor not go to the next level to make sure, okay, we're at COVID, this is bad, we need to make sure that we do a deep dive and make sure that these folks are okay. So
Yeah.
so they come home and they're taking their medicine, and we get to December 30th, we get to New Year's Eve. At 1 o'clock in the morning on January 1st, my daughters come screaming downstairs. There's something wrong with Stephanie.
Oh no.
She's laying in the bed in her bed, and she's very pale. Her breathing's labored. Uh, she's not um, cognizant. They're asking her questions. She's not. So call the ambulance. Take her to Rendalia Hospital because it was closest to where we were living.
Yeah.
So my my wife and I we follow the ambulance. We get into the waiting room, and we're like, they just brought our daughter in. Okay, well, you guys take a seat, and we'll call you when we know something. I'm like, call me when you know something. No, you're
Mm.
not going to call me. Under most circumstances, you're able to go into the emergency room with the patient,
Yeah.
unless it's a traumatic injury where they obviously need to do something life sustaining. Then you would have to wait. But in this case, she didn't have a mortal injury, so there would have been no reason for me to not be able to go. But this is part of their whole protocol now,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
this is the isolation part that the hospitals were undertaking. So we waited 7.5 hours in that lobby before they let us go back.
That's crazy.
So we go back. They got a BiPAP on Stephanie. She's on 50 liters of oxygen at 100%.
Uh,
So I'm talking to her, and she's nodding to me. And the doctor pulls me aside and he says, Mr. Augustine, in order for us to keep Stephanie alive, um, we're going to have to take her over to um, the main hospital over at the regional medical center, and we're going to have to put her on a ventilator because she needs too much oxygen, and her lungs are not functioning, and she needs, basically, her lungs need assistance so that they can then provide the medical attention to her lungs so that her lungs can heal. So I'm like, okay, so I have that protocol.
yeah.
I'm like, this is the protocol that we want to use. And he says to me, that's not the protocol that we follow. Okay, so what you're saying to me then is this patient, my daughter, does not have a right to her own choice of care. And when they initiated the emergency use authorization, what happened is when you cross the threshold of the hospital, and especially if you were on Medicaid, Medicare, you basically became the property of the hospital. I know a lot of people that had in uh, uh, power of attorney and medical directives, and were still denied um, informed consent in their own care.
And
So
yeah, that's great because not to, but like I told, I'm not gonna go into, it, but I told you about my dad where he had known to have heart problems. You know, he was having one of his things that he happens to him. They took him in there, and what did they do? They induced him into a coma and put him on a ventilator. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is his normal. This is not how you treat him normally.
yeah,
Normally, you treat him, he's back out of the hospital like the next day, and then but then they wouldn't let us they wouldn't let me go see him until yeah, it's the same. But yeah, I just sorry.
it is the same thing.
Yeah,
And so you understand exactly what I'm talking about, because there's no way that they had precedence of how they treated your dad, and if they knew that it was a condition that was treatable and they've done it before, there would be no reason for them to do that. But because they they had indemnification, and that was done through the PrEP Act. And for anybody that doesn't know, the PrEP Act basically gave protection to the pharmaceutical industry, to the hospitals, to the doctors and nurses
yeah,
to abide under this new mandate. And that gave them carte blanche to do everything that they were doing, to neglect Yeshua's dad's treatment the way he normally would have been treated, or in my daughter's case, if you went into the hospital before COVID with pneumonia, they would not have initially treated you with a ventilator and remdesivir. That would have not been done. And it doesn't matter even that she was on 50 liters of oxygen. they still had other choices. And so, and I know that because, like I said earlier, I was following these other doctors that were treating people with heart conditions, COPD, other stuff, comorbidities, far worse than my daughter, and they were giving them hydroxychloroquine, high doses of vitamins, all these different alternative
Yep.
treatments, and they were well in 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
So, you know, but what was going on for me at that very moment, even though I knew the protocol, it was like it was fear. Fear just overtook me because now I'm like, okay, I got all this stuff that I know. These are the steps I should be taking and demanding. Um, like, why didn't I ask for a chaplain? Why didn't I ask for the power of attorney paperwork? It's just a small little document you can get anytime you go to ER. Why didn't I
Yeah.
get the health directive? Fill it out. Stephanie was now on oxygen. She was alert. I could have had her sign it, and then she could have denied their treatment, and her informed consent would have been captured so that she would have been protected. And so at the time, I didn't know this, but I could have called the sheriff. The sheriff has a responsibility to the Constitution. Your local police has a responsibility to the city council and the mayor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very, very odd.
Yeah. It
But
is.
but
You're right.
the these things you don't know all the time when you're under duress.
Yep.
And you
I know
know,
exactly what you're talking about. Like when it's happening, and you're like, even though you've studied all this stuff, and you know, like, but when it's happening in the moment, and you have to, it's like the decision is right there, and you're trained to trust the doctors. You're trained to trust the hospital, and like there's something in you that really wants to believe that like this person has, you know, my child's best interest, or my
right.
ours or child like best interest in but like it's yeah it I yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
I
And
get.
so I'm like, you know, getting cross with this doctor, and to the point where I'm like ready to body slam him because no, this is my daughter.
Yeah.
This is She's a child of God. You're not gonna take her and put her under this idiotic plan that you have when you've got other options. And
Yeah.
his just like it was like talking to an android. It was so like spooky that you know the the therapists, the nurses, the people that were in there, they're just doing this stuff very mechanically, like they normally would under any other circumstance, but with just a different level of expediency. Like,
Yeah.
we got to get her over to the ICU so they can get her onto the ventilator and the remdesivir because that's what we're told is going to take care of it.
Yeah.
And so, um, now I'm speaking from hindsight, right?
Yeah.
So this is like, I don't know how many times I've had to do this, and it's it's uh it's uncomfortable because I got to review how screwed up it was and what I could have done differently to help her. And I'm just left with what if,
Yeah.
and it's just it should have never happened. And so I I have to leave. They're telling me to leave. And if you never met my daughter Stephanie, she was a very vivacious, very uh, bubbly, energetic, just always laughing, man. And she had this laugh that was like you would crack up when she laughed. Just it would just make you laugh. And um,
Yeah.
we we never had any health problems with Stephanie. She would get normal seasonal colds like we would when she was younger. Uh, she she was very susceptible to getting a lot of scrapes and bumps. You know, she would uh, be playing outside. She broke her wrists. Uh, Kids
Yeah.
fall and break bones and stuff, but never
Yeah.
ever any
That's
really health problems. And as she got older, um, she started to gain a lot of weight, and but she was always still very active. Bike rides, walk the dogs for miles.
yeah.
And we just she had a pediatrician as she got older. Less time she would go to the doctor, and we would talk to her about hey, let's just go get a checkup. And um, I don't know if it was her own vanity that she just did not want to deal with what we saw as something was hormonal. There was something wrong
It could have
because
been
she'd have from like her
pre-diabetes.
waist down, you know, her 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 buttocks and her legs were proportionate, but she just had a really large gut and she had a lot of muscle up in her shoulders. And yeah, it was diabetes, and it
Oh,
was
okay.
probably a hormonal deficiency as well. We didn't find that out until after she was in the hospital.
Yeah.
But she drank an inordinate amount of water, and not like hardly any soda or anything else. And I just
Yeah.
like, okay, she's just drinking water, put lemon in it, and because she was never going to the hospital, she was never sick. It's just kind of like, and
Yeah.
so so now uh, we leave. They take her over to Parkview Regional, and my wife and I regroup. We go back to the house. We tell the girls what's going on, and um, we go to the hospital, and we can't see her. They won't let us see her, and we're asking
That's
them why can't we see her? Um, well, she's been taken up to ICU, and we've got isolation protocols.
mm,
Okay,
that,
you got isolation protocols. Yeah, well, the CDC, federal government, the state, the county, we all have isolation protocols. You can't see the patient um, until so they were going from your last date of contact. So that was we were with her on the morning of January 1st.
yeah.
So they're going out their 2 week period of 14 days.
Which
So
doesn't make sense.
right, because what did we talk about before? We all live in the same household. what's
Yeah.
what's our what's our point of contact? We all live together, so we all had the same time frame of infection. All right, she's no longer infectious. I'm no longer infectious.
Yeah.
Why was that not something that the hospital would have thought? Oh, you guys live in the same household. Well, your your isolation period is a moot point because you guys have been together. That was never an answer we ever got. And from that moment until we actually got to see her was a constant conflation and argument. And
Yeah.
I have dozens of grievances with that hospital that I filed, that I had conversations with the medical director about, with the people in patient advocacy. Um, so so she's now medically induced. She's on a ventilator, and they're now giving her remdesivir along
Yeah.
with other drugs. Uh, they had her on ketamine, fentanyl, uh, just
Dang. That's
13 different drugs to treat pneumonia. Let's not forget what the reason is that she went there because they'll want to tell you it was COVID. COVID was the virus that got us ill. And then after the virus, then you had whatever could lead to. If you had the jab, it might have been myocarditis.
Yeah.
But COVID itself could have caused myocarditis. It could cause uh, anything, right? And so
Yeah.
what what evidence we had was only given to us by the hospital. So the first doctor we get, his name is Dr. Peterson. I will never forget him, and it's a good reason because we had updates from him about every 2 to 4 hours. He was diligent. He had a plan. His plan was, I'm going to get her off the ventilator. That's all he cared about.
Yeah.
I want to get her off the ventilator as soon as I can, but I need markers. I got to see how her lungs are doing. And so their protocol, their remdesivir, was in theory supposed to lower the effect of the virus, but they weren't giving her anything to deal with the inflammation in her lungs.
Yeah.
And this is where initial treatment of budesonide comes in, and the hydroxychloroquine
Yeah.
and the zinc, because all that stuff would have been working in her lungs.
Doesn't
That's what
the
needed to be done.
ventilators also like don't if I remember right, one of the side effects of the ventilators was like scarring in the lungs or something like that.
Yeah,
It's
ventilators have deciduous effect on the lungs because you're using a high volume of air into the lungs. It can cause a lot of damage long term, and
gotcha.
your obviously your lungs are not what's doing the work. And
Yeah.
if you want to heal, you have to have your lungs functioning, right? So normally, the doctor would send you home, and you would get your antibiotics, you would get your hydroxychloroquine, all those therapeutics. You'd
Yeah.
get spirometer, that little machine that you breathe in. It's got uh, a little scale in it, and you can see how far the volume is of
Yep.
your air, and you do that,
And
six,
isn't there
eight
like
times a day.
two different kinds of so like I was told by like an older person basically if you get pneumonia they have like antibiotics but like you can only get them like I think it's like one time and then after like if you get over that first pneumonia thing that if you get it again then you're pretty much done because they don't your body's that it doesn't work anymore.
And that's why the doctors who were treating patients with hydroxychloroquine and these alternative therapeutics, they knew there was only so much effect that the antibiotics could do, but they knew these other off-label medications were working because they had those patients that already had antibiotics. They came back in, they were suffering, they were not breathing, and they knew they had to do something. And so, however, these doctors around the world were communicating and talking, and credit to a lot of those folks that were doing a deep dive and were not satisfied and were looking. They were looking so many places. And so the drawback, you said it about how social media, Facebook, anytime these people would promote something, it was blocked. And that was evil. That was
Like
bad.
Joe Rogan, one of the biggest podcasters, when he talked about ivermectin, I believe, and then like CNN was like they demonized and they said he was taking like horse tranquilizer or something, and like they just lied about it, and it was um it's just crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, of course, they lie about it because they knew that they were clinical trials that hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin. Yes, they are dewormers, but they've had human trials. They've been used off-label. They're both on the WHO safe drug list for over 70 years, and they have had zero deaths attributed to them. So
They got a
ask yourself
proven
the
track
question:
record. Yeah.
why did the government stop allowing the hospitals to prescribe it if that was the choice of the patient.
Because
Should
I honestly
Wouldn't it
think they
be?
were trying to kill people because, like, well, that's
Yeah, but at the time, yes, you're right. We're
yeah,
not thinking like that. We're not thinking like, why are they trying to kill people? We're
yeah,
like you said, we're trained to trust them. So
yeah,
that's everybody's where they're at, right?
yeah,
And so you got two sets of folks. You got the folks that took the jab, and you got the folks that didn't take the jab, that are sick from the virus, that are now in ICU, that are under this protocol, that are dying. So you got people
yeah,
dying from the jab, and you got people dying in the hospital. What we know that I think right now the third leading cause of death is deaths from being in the hospital from some unrelated illness or it's just very spooky, right? Heart
yeah,
disease is number one, and so you go to the hospital, and you know that there's a certain amount of risk going to a hospital, but it's not like really. I got to go to the hospital,
yeah.
okay?
Like, what else are you gonna do?
Yeah,
Some of these
I
things,
need care,
yeah,
and so now we're dealing with this lunatic policy that we can't see our daughter. So we start telling them, hey, put us in a hazmat suit. If you're so concerned about us infecting our daughter, really, we're going to infect our daughter or we're going to infect other people. We're already 14 days past. So that whole ideology, that whole premise, it wasn't even based in science.
yeah,
That was just part of their protocol. And so when you get to the hospital, uh, if any of you recall that you'd get into the lobby and there were people there at a desk and they would ask you, uh, have you ever been exposed? Have you been around anybody that's had COVID in the last 24 hours? Blah, blah, blah.
yeah,
And you give your answer. They give you the mask. And so now we walk to the lobby desk, and now we have to address this individual about getting access to our daughter. And so we're doing phone calls from home, and I'm driving to the hospital, and I'm trying to get in there and break down their gatekeeper door and get in to see them. And we're getting nowhere. And so I called the health department of Allen County. I called the health department of the state of Indiana. I called the CDC. I called the NIH. I called everybody that I could call,
yeah,
and you're not getting anywhere because you're not going to get anybody of authority. You're just half the time the calls didn't even go through. There was just it would just be like a message, right?
yeah,
And so you know we don't have access to Stephanie, so the only access we have is the doctor. And so Dr. Peterson, his plan is I got to get her off the ventilator and we want to get her on a trach tube because this way she's going to be awake. It's easier for feeding, it's easier for therapy.
yeah,
And he said he was honest. He said um, if she recovers, she's going to be in rehab for a while. And he said I don't know what that end result's going to look like. She may be on oxygen the rest of her life, but he said my goal is I want her to live. And we're like, of course. And
yeah,
so um, he continues with the plan, and she's now in ICU. It's probably 6 days because we had get this. She had 7 different doctors during the 40 days that she was in ICU.
that's a
Each
lot.
one of those people had their own little protocol plan, their own little agenda. She's like everybody else up there right now. She's a test study, right?
Yeah,
That's all they were. They weren't treating the illness. They're there to make money now. We're going to keep these people in here as long as we can, and we'll do what we can for them, make them comfortable. But then when it comes time to recommend palliative care, which is end of life. Um, that's what we'll do.
Hold on,
So
continue. I gotta hit that alarm. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about
so
that.
so so we get a phone call from Dr. Peterson, and he says, "I got a window of opportunity." He said, "We got Stephanie. She was on 50 liters. They got her down to like 41, and he said, if I don't do this now, he said, I don't know that we're going to be able to get her off of a ventilator." And so he told us, he weighed the risks for us, and he said, if it was my daughter, I'd do it, man. He said, I'm loath to keep people on a ventilator more than 10 days because it's not going to go well. And
That's
so we
horrible.
said, yeah, do it,
Yeah.
dude. And so now we're like really worried, man. You know, we're not sleeping, right? Um, we had um, incredible support from our church, um,
Yeah.
Harvest Fellowship in Fort Wayne. Great church, great people. Um, they were there for us for everything, um, bills, food, prayer, support, everything. Couldn't ask for more.
That's how it should
And
be. That's awesome. Amazing.
and uh, and so um, he calls us and said, "We're going to go ahead and remove the ventilator. I'll call you in a couple hours." And so he calls us, and this is like probably January 7th, 8th. And he said, "I got good news. She's tolerating being off the ventilator. Uh, we got her on a nasal cannula. She's at around 40 liters, but she's alert. She's answering questions. Uh, we told her where she's at. We told her what happened. Um, and she'll be able to talk to you guys tomorrow. We're just going to give her, start on, some more treatment and give her some exercises that we want her to start doing and stuff. And so, can we come see her? No.
Mm.
So now she's out of the coma, and now she's alert and awake, and we still can't see her.
I mean, at that point, I probably had to. I'd be doing. What is that? You seen that movie with Denzel where he plays the dad and is
Yep.
like, yeah, that's. I'd probably be almost to that point. You know.
Yep. That's exactly where you're at,
Yeah.
because it's absolutely doesn't make any sense now. Why are you keeping us from our daughter? And so now the only way that they're gonna obviously let her communicate is either by text, or we told the patient advocate office that you know we've already made our case about their stupid isolation. We've already made the case that we're no longer infectious. What you people are doing is criminal. And I've got all these emails. That's
Yeah.
what my belief was. I said, you need to let us communicate with our daughter, and not just by text. We need to be able to see her face to face. She's scared. She's by herself. She doesn't have answers. And so
Yeah.
they got the medical director to say yes, but they said, we're going to monitor her time because we don't want her to have a respiratory distress event. So we get her on FaceTime, and my wife is so beside herself that she couldn't be with Stephanie. Stephanie's asking to talk to my wife, and my wife couldn't do it. She's sitting next to me on the couch, and I'm thinking to myself, why don't you want to talk to her? You need to talk to her.
Yeah.
And she couldn't do it. She just she emotionally she just lost it, and so she
Yeah.
removed herself out of the room. I apologize,
Yeah.
and
I get it. Take your time.
so I'm talking to her, and Karina and Angelina are next to me, and the three of us are together, and we're talking to her, and we're all crying, and she's crying, and she's like, "When do I get to go home?" So I gotta real quick on the fly. I gotta say something to her that's gonna keep her hope up. That's gonna motivate her. And I just basically said, Steph, we're just at one day at a time right now. You got to do these exercises. We're gonna talk every couple of hours. I'm like, whatever they allow us to do. Why can't I go home? And when she started doing that, that's when I was like, okay, I can see what you were saying about that movie with Denzel, because this is not the way humanity treats human beings, right? This is
Yeah.
this is not this is not normal. What's happening now is an evil that I've never experienced.
Yeah.
And I've been in the military. I was a submariner, submarine service. You know, we all in the military. You know, you served in the guard. You know, you train as a soldier, sailor, an airman. Uh, you know, there are certain risks that are inherent to what you're doing. Uh, I was a volunteer firefighter in New York. Um, we were trained by New York City firefighters. Our training was done by New York City firefighters. We had probably 6 to 8 fires a week that we would fight, multiple dwellings, apartment complexes. I've been in
Yeah.
some hellacious situations. I never knew evil like what I experienced with what they did to my daughter.
Yeah.
I didn't have any kind of fear in any area of my life because I trained for it, was prepared for it, but I didn't trade for this. I just, I just, I always trusted. Okay, now I'm a Christian. I'm trusting God. You know, Psalm 91. God's going to protect me. You know,
Yeah.
and Psalm 23. You're just trying to live life. You know, in this New Testament era, and you're thinking like, okay, how do you navigate this with if you're a person of faith? What am I supposed to do? I'm begging God. I'm flat out on the floor. I don't know what more I'm supposed to do to get God's attention. Like, what? Like he doesn't see what's happening, really, Gerard? And
Yeah.
but you're just you're at a loss. There's nobody that can help you.
Yeah.
And I did call the sheriff's department, and they were telling me that for the most part, this is what I come away with is that they were told to stand down.
Yeah.
And I don't know that.
I mean, there's a time like because it's understandable because like when I read the Declaration, it talks about people are willing to take like a long train of abuses before they actually like stand up. But then you realize that like often what happens is it's like it's not often a large mass of people that reach that limit. You know what I mean? It's often individuals, and when these individuals reach that limit and then they do what they have to do, we look at them often as like, oh, they were crazy. Like, why would they do that? But then when you look at like when you start to experience the things like, and then when you look at these people, and like a lot of times it's healthcare or something else, and they're angry, and you're like, it makes sense now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it gets to that point where you're like, because you're right. It's evil, and and they're standing between you and your loved one, and like, ah, that's a that's a that's a no. I mean, but yeah, I get it. I get it. So,
Yeah, because you're just a family member, and they're supposedly the medical professionals, and like you said, we're supposed to trust them, and so we're having these conversations with Stephanie. We thought that they would let us FaceTime her uh, frequently, but they very quickly just made it like twice a day for maybe 10 minutes.
No.
They argued that
Yeah.
we can't we can't let her lapse into a respiratory distress situation, and so um, you know so that was like day one, our first opportunity to talk with her, and then day two and day three and four, and constantly encouraging her to do her breath exercises and how is she feeling, and she's telling us that she's getting really bad bed sores, and they're having to help her with that. And I'm asking her, are the nurses
Oh.
attentive to you and taking care of you? And she said, yeah, you know, she said, Dad, they're really sweet. I talk with them. They're nice to me, and um, I wish I could. Um, I mean, I can in the future share with you videos of Stephanie Yeshua, so you can know her as a person by watching videos of her, and you'll get a better understanding. Unfortunately for the audience, they don't have that opportunity. But
Yeah.
Stephanie was just, I mean, she loved kids, man. I mean, when we were raising our children, because we were in California for 21 years, and in our neighborhood, this one neighborhood that we lived for 10 years, there were a lot of young kids, my children's ages, and at that time, Stephanie was like um, 6 to um, you know would have been about 16 when we left California. No, it would have been a little bit about 18. But these young
Yeah.
kids in the neighborhood just gravitated to our house because we're always doing. My wife had a daycare business, and we would on the weekends we would have like a children's ministry. We'd barbecue. We'd cook food for the kids. We'd have
That's
Bible
pretty
study
awesome.
with them, play games, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, the parents would come up to us and just ask us and say, "Hey, we've got something to do. Would you mind watching?" It was just like no brainer. I mean,
Yeah.
and it was just my kids were like the Pied Piper, man. They were kid magnets, and I know it was because Christ in them, and how they loved other people. And we
Yeah.
in that neighborhood, like when I grew up in New York, uh, very multicultural uh, experience growing up. And my kids were around Filipino families, black, white, just Greek families. Just they
Yeah.
didn't see color,
Yeah.
and we never taught our kids any of that. It was just these are people.
Yeah.
These are your neighbors, and so you know, fast forward, when we started going to Harvest, uh, my daughters all got involved in children's ministry like they'd always done in other churches, and you know, I remember like the first day we started going to the church there. Um, the ministry leaders, um, they looked at my three daughters. Angelina's the oldest, and Stephanie and Karina's the youngest, and they were like, because they'd have an interview and talk with them, and you know, we have a protocol that we go through to make sure that um, you're a sound person to be around kids and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so they they uh, they started, serving in the nursery, and I mean, you know, just watching my daughter in her element
Yeah.
was just, you know, it's just a beautiful thing when you see somebody that God has gifted to do something, and it flows, right? You just
Yeah.
there's It doesn't matter whatever comes, whatever stress event, whatever. It just doesn't seem to affect them, you know.
Yeah.
And so, you know, being around little babies coming into a nursery or whatever, you know, she would just start singing a song, and the baby would just start to relax, and you know,
Yeah.
it was just great watching my daughter live her life. And now I'm watching her on her back asking these questions. When can I come home? They're not telling me anything. Uh, just just very difficult to try to help her uh, stay motivated and focused.
Yeah.
And so Dr. Peterson is ending his 7-day shift, and so he lets us know what he's going to pass off to the next doctor, what his recommendations are. And so our last conversation with Stephanie was, "You're going to be getting another doctor, and Dr. Peterson uh,
That sucks.
isn't gonna be your doctor anymore." And that was a problem for Stephanie because she
Yeah.
felt very comfortable with Dr. Peterson. She's in a hospital, she doesn't know anybody, and the doctor is the guy that she's becoming familiar with.
Yeah.
He's the one giving her some trust, the way he's talking to her, encouraging her, and he's an authority figure, right? And so that made her very uncomfortable. Why do they got to change doctors? And so I have to
Yeah.
explain that to her. And so we we end the conversation with her, and we're thinking, okay, she's on this nasal cannula, she's progressing, she's handling everything okay. 1 o'clock in the morning, we get a phone call. It's this new doctor, and she said that Stephanie's in respiratory distress. We're going to put her back in the coma. Now
Oh.
we just woke up from a phone call, and that's what we hear.
Yeah.
And so we're on speakerphone, and my wife she's done now. She just went off on this doctor. You know, we're we didn't curse at them, but we were very loud and angry.
Yeah.
And you know, what the hell are you talking about? Why are you telling us that she's in respiratory distress? Just 5 hours ago she was fine.
Yeah.
And you know, the doctor was very abrupt with us, and said, "Look, this is my job. It's my call. This is what we got to do, and I'm just giving you a courtesy call. Courtesy call? What do you courtesy call?
Yeah.
We're parents. We haven't been able to see her in person." And she said, "Well, I'm leaving instructions with the nurse station. If you have any more questions, you can talk to them." Click. She hangs up
Mm. Mm.
the phone. So I says to my wife, "Wife, we're going to the hospital. We get in the hospital.
Yeah.
Freaking, we get there, do their little thing at the door, get to the desk. We want to see the doctor. Stephanie is our daughter, and the lady at the desk says, 'Okay, hang on a second.'" And she says to us, um, "Oh, you're gonna have to wait a minute. There's a security alert with your name." So like, security alert? Security alert.
Hmm?
So the police come, campus police,
No.
and they come and tell us, "Yeah, we've got uh, a uh, a concern here. The doctors have that they felt that your phone call with them was very threatening, and we can't have you be near the doctors while they're taking care of your daughter."
Mm-mm. Mm.
Okay, so now we're apoplectic. We're like, okay, what are we supposed to do? So my wife is very angry, and she's just sobbing uncontrollably. And I'm trying to reason with the officer, and I'm like, if this was your daughter, you understand where our mindset's at, right? We just want answers, and more importantly, we want to be with her. I'm
Yeah.
like, we already asked them, put us in hazmat suits, let us go see her. He's like, Mr. Augustine, I don't know what you're going through. The guy was nice. He stayed calm and big dude like you, man. Uh, I'm 5'11". He was 6'4", freaking
Woo.
290, all muscle.
Yeah.
So
We the
I'm
same
like,
height, so
I'm gonna get
we.
pounded if I go sideways with this guy.
Yeah.
And so I'm asking him, and he just put his hand on my shoulder, and he just said, "Look, give me a day. Let me see if I can't talk to my supervisors and talk to the doctors, and see if we can't get you up there." And so I didn't leave. Pam went home, and so I'm there probably, I don't know, maybe 8 hours. I'm there physically seeing the people from patient advocacy, and you know I just keep harping on this idiot protocol that they've got. I'm like, you people are way out of bounds here. This
Yeah.
is this has got to stop. And so they talked to the medical director, and we're we're now at probably like day 10, and so they're considering changing the protocols, but they still haven't made a choice. So why don't you go home and give us a couple of days? So I have no choice. Got to go home, and so we call back. I believe it was on the 14th, and they said, we're going to go ahead and allow one at a time for any of your family members, immediate family, wife, uh, husband, sisters, brothers, one at a time. I'm like, why one at a time? See, they're not wanting to let go of their protocol, but at the same time, they're starting to realize we're in dangerous territory here because we're violating people's. Well, I don't know. Let's go through the amendment, bro. What do you think? First, fourth, 10th, 14th. What? How many amendments have they broken?
Yeah.
And so,
Mm.
um, fine. So I told my wife, I said, go. You go first. And so they really didn't give us a time limit. It was basically just during visiting hours. So if we wanted to stay there the whole time, that was fine. And so um, they then you go up the elevator and you get to an area outside the ICU, and there was another clerk person there. You had to sign in. You had to sign in basically to get permission
Yep.
to go in to go see your family member.
I had to do that with my dad. Yeah.
Okay, right.
Yep.
So when we went in, and this just adds to the confusion because they're now still under an isolation protocol, their 14-day thing, right? But you get to walk down the corridor, and we're not masked. Nobody's masked until
Yeah.
you go into a room.
Yeah. That's
Well,
crazy.
how the hell are you? How where's it? What does the virus compartmentalize itself just in the room? Is it not throughout the whole freaking? I mean, you're either natural immunity, you've overcome the virus, and you're not infectious, which is the way God created us. And they in a hospital know this because they're freaking doctors.
Yeah.
And so you put on just lateral gloves, boxed, unboxed, and a mask and a face mask and
Yeah.
and a robe. Okay, uh, a gown. We go in, and our daughter's on a ventilator. She's in a coma. She's got all kinds of leads, all kinds of monitors, and so the very first time you go in there, you know, this is just like, you know, you see somebody in that condition, and in your mind, this should not be. She should not be here. She should have been treated initially early, and she'd be home. And she's here because of what they chose to do.
Yeah.
So you're, you know, the doctor that we had the issue with, she never would address us. She never would talk to us. We only had communication with the nurses.
Of course. Yeah.
And so my first thing, because I'm a nerd, I just start asking about the monitors. What am I seeing? How am I reading? What am I looking for? Uh, can I see her chest X-rays? They showed me her chest X-rays. Her lungs were emaciated, which basically were like glass.
Ugh.
If you could try to understand that, um, that her alveoli and her lung sacs were just closed. They were shut down.
And was that
And
from the machine, or was that from being
no,
on the machine so
that was
long?
from the virus causing the cytokine effect and the inflammation and the fluid, and then as the body is um, collapsing the alveoli sacs, they're just uh, it, with this term that they use, opaciated, as opposed to when you would look at your normal CT or your normal MRI or any other picture of your lungs.
Yeah.
You would see what they normally would they would look like, and you could tell if there's um, your lung, and then you could tell if there's like spots or different issues on the lung.
Yeah.
And so they were explaining all that to us, and they said normally her lungs should look like this, but this is what it looks like. And then they would show us just tiny little areas where there was air pockets, and
Hmm.
95% of her lungs were just they were done.
That's
And
oh.
so we start asking them about lung transplant, and they were saying that because of COVID, that they had to prioritize people who were going to get lung transplants. And so COVID patients were pretty much ruled out to get a lung transplant because they were deemed non-survivable. And so, I'm trying to be nice and cordial to the nurses, um, and asking them uh, about the protocols that the hospital is under. And as a human being, do you have any opinion on any of the other protocols that are going around the country? And so some of them would volunteer that, yeah, I've been following a lot of what's going on around the country, and um, it's great that these other doctors and nurses are seeing a lot of good results and stuff, and but that's not what our protocol is. I'm like, not asking you what your protocol is. I'm asking you as a human being who's a trained nurse who,
Yeah.
for COVID, treated pneumonia the right way. What is your opinion? I'm trying to solicit evidence from their mouth to my ears that
Yeah.
I could put down in the event that they would ever be a way for me to testify as to what was happening, right?
Yeah.
So that was my whole goal from that point on, was just to try to capture as much evidence as I could, right? Because what else have I got? I mean,
Yeah.
you know, in my heart of hearts, I didn't see her recovered. And as much praying, and I mean, man, we had every time we were there, we were playing worship music. We were playing country music she loved. We were playing, you know, New Kids on the Block, whatever it was that Stephanie liked. I mean, you know, um, I believe she could hear. In a
Yeah.
coma. Maybe subconsciously, but we would talk to her all the time. We would tell her what was going on. We were, you know, letting her know how family was, just having conversation with her like we were talking to her.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was probably more for our benefit,
You never
just
know. Yeah.
having her lay there, and then so then the cruel part about um, she's in the coma for 6 days. Then she's out of the coma for about 6 days. I believe God supernaturally brought her out of that coma so that we would have time to talk to her.
Yeah.
And not knowing that we would never be able to talk to her again, but still talk with her. And then she's back in the coma again. And so now the treatment gets worse for her.
Hmm.
Um, they have to turn her. What they were doing for quite a number of days, even after she went back the second time they put her in a coma, was to help try to remove the fluid from her lungs, which has always been it was the goal that they had. I believe that part. So they would put her on her stomach for 16 hours,
Oh.
and then she'd be on her back. So they're flipping her constantly, and every time they would do that, that ventilator tube would move, and it would cut her throat.
Oh.
And so 3 times they had to
Oh.
change the tube and fix the tube, and so that was documented. And and then my wife started noticing something where she would be in the room, and alarms go off on those monitors, and the nurse
Yeah.
comes in and they have to reset the monitor because calibration, or maybe there's medication that a warning medication's getting low, we got to change. So this one alarm was a low oxygen alarm, and would go off all the time. And so my wife's like, what the hell's going on? And no nurse would come in for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, where the nurse has got 7 other patients to deal with, right?
Yeah.
So you're out in the hallway and you're like, you know, trying to alert the nurse. Well, there's other people behind the nurse station. It might be a pharmacist, it might be a doctor that's doing, he's on call, making rounds. Other nurses are there. You're alerting people. Get the nurse in. What's her answer? Oh, this happens all the time. Really?
Hmm.
You answer the alarm when the medication's going low, but her low oxygen, she's on oxygen. Why would you
Yeah.
immediately come in? So that level of unconcern on their part, you know, is very disappointing because you got the patient in a coma, basically on life support, and you don't even give a crap.
Yeah.
So
That's.
so that's documented, and um, so we go from one doctor all the way through 7 doctors. So we're at doctor number 4. And this guy is Ukrainian, Russian, and I'm asking him. I'm like, you do recognize, doc, that early treatment of budesonide has an effect on the cytokines to reduce inflammation, swelling, all these different things I went through. He said, "Oh yeah, I agree." I said, "Do you agree that that's clinically peer reviewed about budesonide. Yes, yes. I use it to treat my patients.
Hmm.
I said, okay, that's interesting. You do. I said, but your physician assistant that we took Stephanie to initially downstairs in your ER refused to use budesonide. He only gave her Mucinex steroid shot and albuterol. Well, I'm not in his situation. I didn't. So right away, it's like we're going to protect our own, right?
Yeah.
And so that whole protocol umbrella is where they're speaking from. They're not going to speak on their clinical experience. That's out the window. Their morals are out the window. Everything's out the window
Yeah, they're
because
soldiers.
they're going to protect themselves. I got a family. I got a mortgage. I
Yeah.
got private education for my kids. I got my own little kingdom to build. And I'm not going to lose my job because I'm going to go against the gravy train here.
Yeah.
And yet, there were hundreds of doctors across the country that gave up everything to save patients' lives. They gave up their careers. They, I know a couple of doctors personally that I talked to that sold their home, got in RVs, bought an RV, and basically drove around communities, bought ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, whatever they could get to go treat people. Um,
Yeah.
you should listen to Dr. McCullough's testimonies uh, about some of the people that he wind up helping. There was a doctor in an ER hospital in Texas, Dr. Barnett, um, who early on was one of the ones that on his own research um, had looked into these alternative therapeutics because that's what he did. He just looked at what off-label medications could I use against this, and because what a lot of people don't understand is SARS-CoV-2 is just another flu. Okay, it's a it's a dangerous flu. Um, in in Stephanie's case,
It's a man.
in
It's
your
crafted
case,
flu.
my case,
Yeah.
because it was man-made. Okay,
Yeah.
and so a lot of people still today don't believe that our government had anything to do with it.
Although
But
there's a pay, like to not.
anybody with an ounce of courage and is willing to do any research or listen to anybody like myself, and I've got plenty of data.
Yeah.
Um, it did not come from nature. This was something that was developed through um, the Department of Defense with Anthony Fauci's blessing. Uh, and to give people some context, President Obama, to his credit, in 2014, um, signed a moratorium to end gain of function in the United States. So, gain of function just basically is we got a virus, we're going to manipulate it, we're going to do gene therapy, we're going to change the efficacy of the virus, we're going to enhance it. That's gain of function in layman's terms.
Yeah.
And so, Barack Obama stopped that. But Anthony Fauci, he went around that moratorium and he decided to use some of the grant money from the NIH and gave a grant to a company called EcoHealth Alliance that were going to then go to the Wuhan lab and continue the gain of function there in China.
Yeah. Well, Barack Obama. So I don't remember. This is it's been a long time, but Barack Obama, like, while he did end it here, he moved the program and other fund. Well, allegedly, if I can't remember exactly, I'll have to look it up, and then if I find it, I'll send it to you because I remember reading articles on this. Um, but like Barack Obama, like he had involvement in this as well. So,
Yeah, he did. But I'm just saying
but I get what yeah,
for the conversation for right now, a lot of people have to understand that yes, just like President Trump, you know, he has full knowledge of what's going on. He's complicit, all right?
Yeah.
And so Barack Obama as well. But he's got people in his agencies that are coming to him and telling him we still need this research. That's why Barack Obama would have made a decision to
Yeah.
to then decide, okay, you can continue to do this.
Because it
But
wasn't China. It was
what I'm saying is that
yeah.
Barack Obama was not at NIH. Barack Obama was the president of the United States.
Yeah.
So he may have given his yes to what Fauci did, but the fact that they knowingly enhanced a virus, and even before that, go back to like uh, 2017, there were multiple agencies, the Department of Defense, DARPA, um, were getting this mRNA technology prepared and ready, and they even even as early as 2019 had Bill Gates and these other warlocks in the world, Anthony Fauci. They set up this thing called Event 201, and it was basically to prep how they were going to respond to a pandemic that
Yeah.
that they were going to initiate. And so um, I'm getting out in the weeds here. So
Yeah. Sorry.
let let me get back to
Yep.
where we're at with Stephanie. So so we're visiting. My wife's visiting. I'm visiting. My daughters are visiting. My two sons are visiting, each individually. And so we get this one Russian doctor. He agrees to start treating her with the budesonide, and I thought that was like, okay, now that her lungs are emaciated, you're going to give her something that you know could have helped her in the beginning, but you're going to do it to placate me because I'm bringing this protocol to you and I'm asking you to do something to help her, you know.
Yeah.
And that was just totally ingenuous on their part. And um, so then at that point, I go to the pharmacist and I give the pharmacist uh, an earache because they have the protocol that I gave them when I went to Randalia. And I asked the pharmacist, I want you to review the protocol. I said, do you have any reason as a pharmacist to negate the effect of any of this treatment for pneumonia? And he said, no, other than we don't use these off label medications. I said, okay, but they're on the WHO's safe drug list. And if a patient comes in the hospital and wants a certain treatment, is that not within their right to get that treatment?
Yeah.
He didn't answer me. so so now we're starting to get some help from patient advocate. We're telling them we we're gonna have to make some changes here because we can't keep coming one at a time. You know, we have a life to live too, and we've got to have family members coming
Yeah.
together. And so they start letting us come at two at a time. Only still um, immediate family, and
Yeah.
so now we're getting down to her last days, and um, the last doctor, he's an Asian doctor, he takes me into waiting room, and he said, I just need to have a conversation with you about making a decision about Stephanie. He said, we've done everything medically necessary within our guidelines that we can do for her. there's nothing more that we can do. And he said, I recommend that you and your wife make preparations for um, palliative care. And so, you know, we told patient advocate that um, we want our um, our pastors, we want some of Stephanie's closest friends to start being able to visit, and um, at that point, I was getting ready to tell them that if you don't allow us to do this, then we're going to have to start going to the media. And I should have done that. I should have done that immediately.
yeah.
That was another mistake I made.
Eh,
And
hindsight is 2020.
yeah,
I understand.
and
Yeah.
so now we have permission, and um, we can have as many of the people as we want. I think they allowed up to four at this point now, and so my wife would go up with um, pastor, would go up with um, some of the deacons, would go up with the ladies that were involved with Stephanie in children's ministry, a couple of our really close um,
Oof.
families that we knew, and yeah, that last 4 days was just brutal. Um,
I can imagine.
just a lot of overwhelming crying and grief, and just what a what if, what could have, just and honestly, the thing that to this day, as a Christian, that bothers me, and I wrestle with God about this every day, about God's will, His sovereignty, His providence, and I don't have an answer. I don't I
Well,
I I, I just don't.
if well, like, so I've thought about this a lot too, and one of the key factors that we us as Christians are we often leave out the fact that us as humans have free will, and that God respects our free will. Like he can step in. Like there's times when he can step in, and but overall, the overarching thing is that there is free. That's why bad people can do bad things to good people because there's free will, and that's why that's why we have God can make judgments. That's why He judges us at the end of our lives, depending on what we've what we've done. So He has to leave space for people to do the right thing or the wrong thing, and that's not a I know that's not comforting. It's not a good because trust me, like there's times, especially with my daughter, like uh, when things were happening, and I understand, like you feel so helpless, and it's like God, what did she do? Like you know what I mean? She's like she didn't do anything. Like why is and like yeah, but yeah, the free will, and then I don't know if you believe in or if I don't really like people, the near death experience thing when people talk about they died and they see Jesus, and
Yeah,
sometimes they get a choice whether they want to come back or not. Like you just never know, like the plan, whose wills were in, um, like, and I'm not again, it's not doesn't make anything it doesn't make you feel better or anything, but like I just thinking about the totality of like however this works. I don't know, you know, just
no,
like you.
I agree with you. I think that's really kind of like the only thing that yourself and everybody else tells me is just like exactly what you're saying, Gerard. They made the choice. They made the choice for Stephanie. That was their choice how they were going to treat her, and it was the wrong choice, And so she was a a, a victim of what their protocol was, and when when you're when you're standing at the place where you're done, you have no more options, you know that they're Um, their life is going to end. You know, it's just um, it's complicated. It's very complicated. And I'm talking
Yeah.
from a faith perspective, right?
Yeah.
Because we've in our life, my daughter Caitlin, the one that we're estranged from, at 7 days old, she had spinal meningitis, um, and only because of God's grace. This is probably the other side of the coin. We had a Chinese doctor that was an emergency room doctor that we happened to take our daughter to that moment, went in, and this guy was just like boom, 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 went down through every single thing that he knew to do and to test for, and spinal meningitis because of her symptoms, and was in, got her in the hospital. She was on triple antibiotics. My wife stayed with her for 3 weeks, and God saved her.
Yeah.
And um, and they told us, she's gonna have auditory problems. She's gonna have brain function problems. She have this or that, and we got her out of the hospital. And I was working with a supplement company in California at the time, and I put her on these two different products, and basically it was like a formula. And
Yeah.
over the next year, her health was like off the charts. She was like in the top 10% of kids her age,
Yeah.
auditory, everything. And so, um, you know, you just, okay, God, you intervened there, but couldn't spare here, and couldn't even, you know, could speak to somebody's heart here. And, but that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
This is the world that we live in. And this side of heaven is people have free choice. And there were just too many people
Well,
who
so
chose to forego their morality. I
well,
don't know what other way are we supposed to say this,
it's
Yeshua,
like the
right? Well,
Matrix. It really is. Like when you look at like everybody's plugged in, everybody's going. They're on this track or whatever, and everyone in the Matrix is an agent. It protects the system, and then a lot of times people don't question the system. So like if you think about the nurses and stuff, like there are nurses that stopped and were like, "Hey, this isn't wrong," but there was probably way more nurses that thought this isn't right, but I need still got to do this job, or this is the protocol. If this is the protocol, then that's just without thinking, they just do it. Same thing with like police. There's times like you watch some of those videos where like the cop is clearly wrong, and you can tell he has to know he's wrong, and then the people around him cover for him, and it's like we're in this. It's like we're like it's very few people. Like once you wake up and you see it, like um, you can't go back, and then you realize like it kind of does tell you how like sometimes I feel like screwed. You know what I mean? Even if you're awake, it's like, well, what's the point of being awake if everybody else is still going about doing what the system tells them.
yeah,
It's it's, it's
it,
frustrating.
it
Then
is.
I always tell people like ignorance is bliss. If you're when you don't see it, if you don't experience it, like you're happy. But as soon as you wake up, as soon as if something happens and you're forced to see it, like there's no going back. And the
No,
rest of your life, you have
you're
to
changed.
like
No, no,
yeah
yeah. So
yep sorry
so then we just have these last few days, a lot of um,
but yeah
the deacons, our friends, the pastors, we come in, um, pastors anoint her, we say last rites, um, and then the final day, we um, my wife and my daughters,
oh,
they're washing Stephanie's feet, um, and we're worshiping together in the room, and um, we had a Zoom video with some family members that weren't able to come and see Stephanie, and so we let them participate in this last memorial. Was like you know a memorial service that we had there in the room, and just everybody was able to just kind of share their experiences knowing Stephanie, and um, that was really nice. And then that meeting ended, and
Oh,
the palliative care team came in, and they start removing all the leads. They take her off the ventilator. They prepared us for what was going to happen, um, how her last breaths would sound, um,
oh my gosh.
and
Oof.
she didn't pass right there in the room because they still had her on um, some oxygen, um, and they told us that she would probably last about another hour off the ventilator, and so we were leaving the room, and then they had a protocol for um, patients at the hospital who were going to be taken off of life support. Um, they basically had all the nurses, hospital workers, everybody, people would just line the hallway um, like an honor guard.
Yeah.
And
Oof.
so,
That's
they're leading the gurney, and I got, my sons are at the front, and my wife is at her side, and my daughters are at her side, and I'm at her head. And, you're walking through the hall, and, you know, not all those people had the responsibility of interacting with Stephanie. Some of them were LPNs, some of them were janitors, right?
yeah.
And they, the hospital, well, this is what they told me, not just in letters, but personally and on the floor, that our family, that whole 40 days, was the one family that they saw advocate for their loved one more than anybody else. They saw us praying over her, worshiping over her, crying out to God, um, living out their faith,
Yeah.
and that made an impact on those people because other people were hearing about it.
Yeah.
And there was another family that when like my wife would go up, um, I would go into a waiting area, and an older couple had a young daughter, and she was in the ICU, and she was in real bad shape. And you know, you're sitting there and you're in the same situation, and I could see, you know, how distraught they were, and you know, day after day after day, you're seeing these same people, man. I just would pray with them.
Yeah.
I would do whatever I could to encourage them and tell them, I would ask them, tell me about your daughter. I wanted to know about your
Yeah.
daughter. Talk to them about Stephanie, and um, thank God their daughter pulled through. She came out of a situation with punctured lungs, and she was in
Oh.
bad shape when she was 20, 21,
Yeah.
and she came through. And
That's
so we go through the hallway, and there's just I didn't expect the emotion from as many people as I saw. Uh,
yeah.
Real intense grief, and you know I'm thinking to myself, you're looking at these people and you're like, I don't recognize them. I didn't see them in the room with Stephanie. Dude, that in their soul they knew that this was not right. They had to know that. There's no way that you would be that grief stricken if you had no idea who this person was. You might be sad for them,
Yeah.
but for that many people to be that emotional, that just was like more confirmation that look, these people are just, you know, they're suffering too because of the decision that they made and
Yeah.
the decision they were forced to make because they were forced to comply, just like a lot of people were, right?
Yeah.
And when it comes to the vaccine, we had a choice. You could comply and take the jab, or you didn't have to.
Yeah.
And so, but those people that were in those jobs, they didn't have a choice. They either could work there or they could lose their job. And,
Yeah.
and if you're trained in as a pharmacist, as a doctor, as a nurse, you weren't going to be going anywhere getting a job in that field.
Yeah.
So if you've got obligations and you need a paycheck, what are they
Well,
supposed to do?
not enough of them. Not enough. Not enough. They you always have a choice, but at the same, like, not enough of them at the same. If enough of them at the same time would have stood up and said, like, no, we're not doing this. They can't. There's only a finite number of healthcare workers, and like I know that like they know in their soul like that it was wrong, and we always talk about like, oh well, Hitler in Germany, if we were there we would say no, but it's like the truth is that the majority of people, they would have done the same thing that the people that we criticize through history, like they just go along with it, and it's like, and I think like, and you're right, like to be a coward, like like I don't know, like, and it's the people that we always call heroes too. Like we medical care, and I'm not saying they're not. Like most of the time they are, but like there are times when the people that you expect to be like, I don't like, and I feel bad talking about, like I don't, cause get I get the fear, I get all that stuff, like, but like people's like like how many stories I hear, just people's like like their elderly got sick, like their mom or something was up in the hospital and they couldn't go see them and they died alone, and like that stuff. That I like, and I don't know that there's gonna be justice. Like I don't know that, like,
I agree. I do, and you're right. You know, collectively across the country, there weren't obviously enough doctors and nurses to just stop because when you referenced earlier those videos of the nurses that you saw, a lot of it was coming out of what was going on in Queens, in New York, in the hospitals, were some of the first nurses that we were seeing. You know, and people are talking about so many inequities that were going on in the hospitals. Oh, well, we're seeing videos of body bags, but you know, I'm not seeing a lot of people in my ER. You know, why is everything seem like
yeah,
the narrative is one thing, but then the reality of what we're seeing is something else. And then the nurses are saying, you know, why are we treating people that like your dad? Perfect
yeah,
example. There was no reason for them to do that to him, and so, you know, you're going down this hallway. We were, um, we make it to the one of the operating rooms. Um, they've got Stephanie basically behind a drape. Her head is exposed to us and her shoulders,
yeah,
and because now um, it's there's going to be an autopsy, and there's going to be um, they did have uh, the transplant team come talk to us. Initially, they told us, "Great news! We're going to be able to donate our heart, our kidneys, her liver, her I think it was her corneas, and so that we were overjoyed. Right? It was like that's great news. And so for like, so this is like 3 or 4 days before she passed, right? And then
Yeah.
they come to us at the last day and they say, "Oh well, we did the tests and stuff, and there's not enough evidence yet that we can say that um, we can salvage her heart and her both kidneys. One kidney, yes,
That's, oh,
but her liver, no." And I'm like, "You have no medical record. Your own evidence during the time she's in the hospital, her heart's fine. Heart, very strong heart. They
yeah.
they did they did heart muscle tests. They did EKGs. They did uh, blood work from her heart. Um, they didn't see anything that the virus was doing to her heart, right?
Yeah.
All this was about her lungs, and of course, what the remdesivir was doing to her kidneys, shutting her kidneys down, that they never said anything about. But we found that out, you know, later from doing research about what the toxicity of the drug
Yeah.
did to people. But so now you're totally deflated because it's like they only going to salvage one kidney.
I
So
smacked him. Like at that
so
point, like that first when you told me that her like it was good and I had the up and I'm like this has been a consistent pattern like and then when you came down like I don't know maybe it wasn't even the same person but like you just happened to be the wrong messenger today like I probably would have smacked the shit like I at that point no
dude,
like
you're right, and you know unless you're in that situation and you're because there's there's a lot of different emotions, right?
yeah
Your grief, your anger, your your you're still dealing with like your faith is trying to override all this, and
yeah
we were very cognizant of our witness before these people, right?
yeah
Because my pastor and our deacons, you know, they were just you know encouraging us because of our own words to them, and they were just so grateful that as believers we were taking the position of not allowing our flesh to override our witness,
yeah
and
yeah
you
you're
know
right
and
you're
then
right
you're thinking about like, well, you know, we really had to die to ourselves so that whatever other people could take away from that was obviously gonna
you're right
help them because it wasn't helping. It wasn't helping us really, right? And it
yeah
wasn't like we weren't like performing. It wasn't like a show. I mean,
yeah
that was real. And so, you know, my wife and I always talk about this, like, you know, well, great, we displayed our faith, and God didn't honor it. And like, no, that's the part that we're going to struggle with about free will. That
yeah
we had nothing to do with, and then you're like, okay, well, did I not pray right? You know, was I not, you know, um, was I doing what the Apostle Peter tells the man to do when it comes to his wife, not loving his wife, not protecting his wife, not um, serving her as Christ served the church. I mean, all these things go through your mind as
yeah
like, what would block my prayer? What would, you know, what would like
well I believe there's
really
a
like God is gonna not save my daughter's life because for some reason I didn't meet the prayer requirement this week. You know,
yeah
I mean, if you really believe that salvation comes through Christ alone and Christ's atonement on the cross, then you look to the cross and you look at the two thieves and you know your salvation's good
yeah
because the dude that rejected Christ and the dude that accepted Christ, the dude that accepted Christ, he never served God a day in his life. For sure, he went to synagogue because how would he have known who Christ was? They probably went to synagogue, even though they were sinners and thieves, right?
Yeah.
So that young guy, he he knew from Torah who the Messiah was, and he's seeing it now on display right next to him, and he
Yeah.
says, I surrender. Jesus, you are Lord. Remember me. And Jesus said to him that this day you will be with me in paradise. How do you and I look at that experience and think anything that we do in this world, I got to tithe more, I got to pray more, I got to serve more, I got to do anything that's going to be Jesus plus? No, it's on Christ alone that I have my salvation. So my salvation's secure. So now
Yeah.
we're talking about an intercessory situation where I'm
Well,
I'm gonna do faith and hope that my works and my faith somehow in my little puny finite mind
well,
tug on God's
well,
cloak and say,
yeah.
Lord, I really need you. And the whole time, Yeshua, all I was thinking about was when Stephanie came out of the coma. I'm like, and Stephanie would say it all the time. She's like, I can't wait to get back to church to testify before the people so I can tell them about the goodness of God. And all
Yeah.
I kept thinking about was, oh man, she's going to be one of these people that makes it. She's going to have such a testimony. That's all I hung on to, man.
Yeah.
And then she goes back into another coma, and I'm like totally, I'm wiped out, man. I'm like my faith is crashing. I'm like, I'm just, I'm praying, I'm reading scripture over. We're listening to worship music and stuff, and that last 45 minutes, well, we're in that room, and these people are surrounding us, and they're telling us that, okay, just watch, because they had a monitor for us to look at. We could see her heart rate, her breath rate, and we could hear her. Um, you physically could hear her struggling to breathe.
Yeah. No.
That last 45 minutes, man, and so we're looking at the monitor, and you could just watch the life leave her,
Yeah.
and my wife laid over her head and her shoulders, and she's crying on Stephanie, weeping, and just uncontrollable grief. And then I got to kiss her head and touch my face to her face. Man, that felt so good.
Yeah.
And I just told her, I said, Steph, it's okay. Go to the Lord. Go be with Jesus. She took her last breath and she was gone.
Yeah.
And then we had a debrief real quick, and back to our house, and uh, had my sons over the next day, and we had a really good day, a really good meal, and took out all the photos and videos, and just incredibly, we were laughing and just talking about Stephanie, and
Yeah.
I think you go into this mode where you just expended so much energy grieving, you allow yourself some time to just have a little bit of joy of their life, right?
Yeah.
And we had um, a celebration of life service at the church. I'm going to send you the link so that you can watch that celebration,
That'd be
um,
awesome. Thank
and hopefully you'll get a little bit more sense of Stephanie. And I'm going to send you a bunch of photos of her, and I'm gonna ask
Okay.
my daughter Karina to make up maybe a video collage, and maybe some videos so that you can see her living her life and just how just bubbly she was, and this way you'll have some more context to work with and get to know my daughter.
Yeah.
And just from that point on, man, after we had the celebration of life uh, celebration, um, it was very difficult because um, the whole 40 days what we were going through, and our church was um, very present for every single thing that we needed. Right, we
Yeah.
had a lot of attention, a lot of focus, and when your loved one passes, um, I mean it's normal. The church has got to focus on other people,
Yeah.
and so there was a void now. There's just like it's only your immediate family. It's not all these other people that are constantly checking on you, and,
Yeah.
and so that dynamic changed, and that brought on a lot of depression, um,
I can imagine. Yeah.
and and so about 6 months after uh, this time, um, well, Stephanie passed on February 6th of 22, and um, of April, so not even 2 months later. First, in the middle of all this, I I get a phone call from my coworker, and he said um, our employer's selling his business. We're out of a job. Like
Ugh.
what? And so no notice, no severance pay, no nothing. You're done. And then in April, so that phone call was like in January. 70 passed in February. Then in April, our landlord says, we're selling the rental house that you guys are in. You got 30 days to move. And
That's
then,
tough. That
and
is
so
tough.
then that happened. And thank God we had a friend in our church that um, let us come live with him until we could find another place to live. And we did, and moved into a new house in September. Um, and and then we get into that house, and I was working at uh, of all places, working for Parkview, not at the hospital, but driving their Ronald McDonald medical clinic truck.
No.
And I started having really severe issues with being able to stand up, walk up steps. Now, I had spinal stenosis diagnosed, had arthritis, was working in and out of a dump truck all the time. I'd come home, ice up, take ibuprofen, get back to work. And now all of a sudden something was wrong. I just couldn't do the job anymore. I couldn't even get up the steps to get in the truck.
Yeah.
And so we're now in our new home that we have a mortgage for. That I had a great paycheck to pay for my mortgage, and I'm like, what the hell am I going to do now? I can't. I'm like, I'm using a cane. I'm going to therapy. I'm limited. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
I can't do those jobs. And so um, I'm like, man, I'm going to be missing some payments here. I better find out what's going on, what's available to me. So because we were still under the mortgage industry, still allowed for uh, the emergency use authorization, gave them the opportunity to give people a forbearance. So they were giving me forbearances 3 months at a time.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, man, I'm not going to just rely on that thing. So I contacted the state of Indiana, their Treasury Department had a grant program that basically would pay for um, the months of mortgage that I had missed, get me caught up, and then for 6 months additionally. So that would
Yeah.
take me out. That would have taken me out to December of 23. And so we got all our mortgage payments caught up, and we had another 6 months, which would have gotten us to December of 23. But by that time, now um, I'm in a wheelchair. I'm really cooked. I'm done. So I applied for Social Security disability, my VA disability, but those things take, you know, a while.
Yeah,
Took
they do.
took me took me 9.5 months for my VA disability. It took me about 16 months for my Social Security disability. So um, we know we have to sell the house because we only got the mortgage payment paid up till December of 23. And, you know, anybody that's selling a house, trying to buy another house, that's a nightmare because
Yeah,
everything is all timing, right? And in
yeah,
the best of markets, it's a timing thing. Well, we're not in the best of market, and nobody's selling
yeah,
because of COVID. The interest rates are going up, and I'm like, oh man, God, what am I gonna do? And so my faith is low, but I'm like, I'm doing all these things in the natural to try to help my family, help myself, and you know, um, I'm like, okay, God, just I have to just trust you. All my complaining and bitching and moaning and screaming and yelling, I'm putting my hand up, right hand for some, my left hand can be on the Bible right now.
yeah,
I'm telling you the truth, Yeshua. You know, I've had knockout dragouts with God. I don't know what wrestling with an angel will look like, but
yeah,
I just angry with God, screaming at him, cursing, just the whole flesh package, man.
yeah,
And I just said, I'm done. Do what you got to do, man. I, this is, I can't do any more. And so we're like at the last possible couple of weeks, we keep lowering the price of the house as low as we can get it. Obviously, you want to set your price a little bit higher so you can make a little profit,
yeah,
but there's no equity in the house. So I'm like, all I want to do is get the mortgage paid. I'm not worried about profit.
yeah,
And but the realtors want it, right?
yeah,
So um, we had a good realtor, and she did everything she could. And the lady who was in charge of our grant, God bless that woman, because the way the grant worked was a 5-year grant, and each of the 5 years you went through, they took off money that um, you didn't have to pay on the grant. So, like, if you stayed in the house the full 5 years, you didn't have to pay the grant back, right? But if you were in the grant only 2 years, but you sold your house, then you didn't have to pay the grant back. It was in certain situations that, which wasn't our situation. There was no fraud or anything like that. So, so the state, had the option to release you from the grant, and you didn't have to make payments. Um,
yeah,
so the lady that was our caseworker for that, she basically advocated and pleaded on our cause to the state to release us from the responsibility of the grant because we'd only been in the grant for like 9 months.
yeah,
And you sign a contract and everything, and they released us from it. We found a young couple, and they they really liked the house. They didn't make too many demands on the house, um, condition wise, and so we knew we had somebody to buy, but we're out looking, and there ain't a lot of inventory, and I
yeah,
didn't have my Social Security and VA disability money yet, and so we had to just rely on my wife's income, and her income would only support a mortgage of about $144,000. And so we did find a house. It's in a very depressed part of Fort Wayne, a lot of crime, and but gotta have a place to live.
yeah, yeah,
And so so we get into this new house, and our first payment isn't due till um, February 1st, and February 15th, I get my first Social Security check for $40 more than what the mortgage is.
Yeah, that's that's close.
That's that's that ain't me.
Yeah, that's good.
That's close. You said it, brother. It isn't that how God does stuff too. It's just like everything in His timing. We in this cosmos, man. We don't have an eternal. God doesn't have time,
Yeah.
but we do, and we're looking at the clock. God, it's coming due here. What you gonna tell me a little something, something here, man?
Yeah.
You
That's
know, and it's not like like I've talked to people who are very wealthy, who are Christians, and they'll tell me that some of them who are very stubborn, and then some of them who are very humble, and both of them say the same thing. Well, you have a lot of money. Your money is a defense. You look to your money to handle your stuff,
yeah.
and not that they didn't say, like, not that they didn't trust God,
Yeah.
but their default is always, I got my money to fall back on. God, I got this. I'm good. You
Yeah.
know, I could sell my second house. I could sell my boats. I got reserves.
Yeah.
But when we're living on paycheck to paycheck, faith, man, I think that you know like all of what we've gone through, you know, if I'm going to learn anything from any of this, it's that I know great evil in this world, and I know that no matter how upset I get with God, he's resolved to forgive me because the blood of his son is greater than anything that I could do or say.
Oh yeah,
Now,
and God's bigger too. God's got a thick skin. If you look through all through the Bible, people are there are times when people are arguing or testing us, and God's just kind of like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, all right, like, and he still comes through. Like like if you look at Samson, you know what I mean? When
yeah,
he did all that stuff, did all the stuff he wasn't supposed to do. The chick cuts his hair, and then he's a slave, and then they have that feast, and at the end, God gives him his strength back so he can push the pillars and kill the like. God always comes through in the clutch. Like I don't know what it is or why. Like he is. And briefly, if you when you were talking about like why sometimes he answers prayers and why he doesn't, you know what I mean? I believe there's a verse where Jesus talks about he talks about a tower that fell on people, and he
uh-huh.
says like which of them sinned, and basically the point is that like sometimes things happen, right, and it's not necessarily because people sinned or didn't sin, right. um, Righteous people die. Even Paul said he had he's talking about having a thorn in the flesh that he prayed for God to remove, and he never did. um, my with my dad. So like my dad didn't, well, I think I told you my dad didn't die in the hospital that time. He died later, and one of the things he did. So like my dad had a drug problem, and so they put him on hospice. Right, they sent him home on hospice because he had congestive heart failure, just getting worse. And well, I mean, so what my dad told me is that when the last time he went to the hospital, they basically wouldn't let him go home again until he signed the hospice papers. That's
uh,
what he told me, right? So they send him home. They give him what is that stuff they give you? It makes you feel really good, but it's not good for you. But it's something like if they used to give to like numb pain and stuff. Uh,
it's an opiate.
yeah, yeah. Um,
You're not talking about morphine, are you?
yeah, morphine. That's it. Yeah. They gave him more, but they gave him pills. And my dad's, he was a drug addict, so like he ends up taking like pretty much all the pill, which I think he was trying to commit suicide, but I don't know. I can't say that for sure. I don't want to slander, but so he took all the pills. It put him in like this coma kind of thing, right? And I prayed to God, like because God answers my prayers, so like most of the time. And I prayed to God, and then like my dad came out of the coma, but he still didn't like he was getting better, but he didn't want to be like. You could tell that my dad was ready to go, right?
Yep.
At that point, he was just so like deteriorated his, and he was like, I'm ready to. You could just tell he ready. So no amount of prayer that like. I realized that at the end because when first God answered my prayer, brought him out of the coma because he was supposed to die. Like they were pretty sure he was gonna die,
Yeah.
and then yeah, and then he was able to go to live with my mom, and she took care of him, and then he did pass away, but he didn't because he did, I know he was ready to go. He lost his wife who had cancer, so like in a short time frame, uh, my stepbrother got sick, but he had diabetes and stuff, right? And he went to the hospital, and you know how you wear the little things that tells them how to treat you.
Yeah.
And so he had diabetes, and he had just got another autoimmune disease. And when he was in there, I guess there's a shot that they're supposed to give them, and he was trying to tell them to give him that shot. And his mom, who's dying from cancer, is sitting in the room with them, right? Because she went down to the hospital, and they wouldn't give it to him. And then there was a point uh, where before he took his last breath, he said, "Oh my God, I'm gonna die, aren't I?" And she was sitting there right there, and then he died, and then a few months later she died, and then like a few months later my the middle brother, my older brother, he died as well. But like so my dad was after all of that, I think he was, and then his heart failure and all that stuff, he was ready to go.
That's a
But
lot
like
to do with.
I prayed, God answered one prayer, but my for whatever reason, like so I don't know why he answered some and then others, because he could have just easily answered the second one and like maybe changed my dad's heart. But there again, it's like, or not my dad's heart, but changed his mind about.
Yeah.
But free will there's some free will there, but I don't know why things happen, but like it's not always just because of lack of what we like you said. It's not like what we did or didn't do, or that made God want to answer your prayer or not. And like there are circumstances that like if there's things like that, but like in this case, like that's not probably not the case. And like your daughter, it sucks that she's not here with us, but she's with God. Like, and I tell people, like, because people talk about like heaven. You get to go see your relatives and stuff like that, which is good. But like, what makes heaven is God, and like being in the place with God. Like, because we seek that here. That's what we do as Christians. That's why we, you feel God's presence, and then you convert, and then you pray, you try to be obedient to Him, and you feel His presence, and He refreshes you through life. And we're just getting a glimpse, but she gets the full like presence of God, and like she is loved right now, and I know it doesn't like I'm saying that, but like I know God, and I like that's where I want to be too. Like even now, if I have responsibilities here, but the one place that like when I'm going through stuff is like I'm like God, one day I'm gonna be with you, and I like this will all be like a bad dream, you know what I mean? But yeah, like she is, uh, she, yeah, like she's got it made. Like, and I know it doesn't sound good to us, but like, cause we want them here, like on this side with us, cause that's where that's where she should be, like it's where I feel like my dad should. But then on the other hand, it's like we're all appointed a time to die. We're all gonna die, and we're gonna go be with God. So and it'll be way better than it is here. And again, everybody says that. I know, but like, but it's true. And even though I don't like it, I mean, I do like it, but I don't like it.
Yeah.
You know, it's so she's in an amazing place, like no better place, no better place, and the place hopefully we all like get to be in the presence of God, because that's the goal. That's the goal.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry. But yeah, I know it's not easy. Um, but oh man, that's. But yeah.
So
Um.
that was the 40-day event that we went through with Stephanie. It was, she went to the ER on the 29th of December of 21. She went into the hospital at Parkview Regional Medical Center January 1st of 22. Then she passed on February 6th of 22.
Yeah.
40 days.
Yep. Yeah. I know it doesn't like it is. It's always like it's just yesterday. Like I miss my dad a lot. Like a lot. Um.
Yeah.
And I know my mom misses my brother as well. Like and I can't imagine losing a child. Like losing a parent is bad, but like if I like, I don't even like that pain. I can just imagine it. It's otherworldly. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
ah yeah
No, it's just not. You're right. I mean, losing our siblings and our parents is it's um, a different um, a different level of pain and grief, but um, the whole aspect of, and I tried to use this pain, which I don't know how relative it is to God, but you know, tried to imagine that you have your relationship with your son, and you have to together make a decision to salvage humanity, and this plan we have to execute is going to require you to sacrifice yourself willingly, and
yeah
your son does that, and then for 6 hours you have to basically turn a blind eye to your son because he's now sin, and you have to judge sin, and 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 yet the result is that he was always going to be with the father
yeah
because of his obedience. And so what 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 I think I need to do is, and I'm having to, because I mean honestly, I'm just, my prayer life has suffered, my faith has suffered, and I have to decide that my obedience to God is more important than my pain. And um, I gotta start. I gotta get out of that cold hard heartedness and do what do what the Bible says to us in Revelation about returning to our first love. And
Yeah.
relationship with Jesus again, because we get so dark sometimes in our walk with God. We journey down these dark roads, and we get angry with God, and then we wonder why do we not sense God's presence? Well,
Yeah.
we let in demonic influences, we let in spiritual attack by Satan, uh, in addition to what he's already doing to everybody every day anyway, in our thought life and everything. And um, you know, I want to be with my daughter and my son and my mom and my friends that have gone before me. I,
Yeah.
I don't I don't want to risk um, falling away and being part of this group of people that are part of the apostate church.
Yeah.
I don't want that to be me, and
Yeah.
I fear that for my wife and my daughters, because it's like we've we've gone very much away from our Christian disciplines, and you know I can't force them to get back to where we were, but I can lead them by example and by doing what I need to do. And I will, you know, um, I I sense I can be honest with you, Yeshua. I don't see the point in having a friendship with someone if there's not going to be transparency, because then I'm defrauding you, because how do you know you can trust me?
I, yeah.
If I tell you and I'm honest about my life, then it's your choice to say, you know what, this guy didn't have to tell me these things,
Yeah.
and you get to decide. And how do we develop trust with one another? It's through the hard things that we go through. It's when each of us needs something. Are we willing to help? Can we help? Um,
Yeah.
Not all the time financially, we might be able to. Maybe we're away, and it's just a phone call or whatever. But I think you understand what I'm
Yes, sir.
saying. And being laid out on my back, I can't walk. It's just an incredible frustration of not being able to do what a man does, provide for his family. I mean, to do basic things like throw the trash out, walk my dogs, pick up the yard,
Yeah.
just wash the dishes, make a meal. I'm so dependent on everybody. It's like I lose control over my temper, and I just get so foul and angry because I'm in chronic pain. First of all, I weaned myself off of opiates because they thought, the VA did, that pain management was your best solution instead of the less invasive um, surgical procedures that I've asked for them to send me to these clinics in Florida where I can go get back surgery, not have open fusion, and my insurance won't cover it and they won't allow it. And then I was told that I'd have access to all kinds of supplements and stuff, these off-label medications to detox from the COVID virus, because anecdotally, I believe that the virus has done something to mitigate the spinal stenosis and the neuropathy and stuff in my body to the point where, I can't walk now. And
Yeah.
so you have all this stuff going on in your life. And I'm just speaking like my example is probably like a lot of people, you know, who've come out of COVID and have had real bad symptoms and reactions and stuff. And um, I'm just like, in denial of like, well, this is the way the rest of my days are going to be. I'm just like, I, I, I can't, I can't agree to that, because I know there's an option. I can go have that surgery. It's just, how do
Yeah.
I get the money to get there, right?
Yeah.
And so that's, you know, something that I'm, advocating with my congressmen about and the subcommittees that make these decisions and saving the money to get the surgery. And, um, I'm spending my own money to go get different higher level tests to try to figure out what's going on um, with my genes, with my my body overall, and pay and get the supplements I need. I just got denied for an increase for my VA. I'm 90% service connected right now, but to get from
Yeah.
90 to 100% is like very difficult, and so um, I do have uh, some hope that in September they're changing the mental health guidelines, the way that they rate um, mental health, and so they're going from an older system to a newer one. And under the newer system, they already have the guidelines and the format, and so based on my evidence and my diagnosis and where I'm at, um, I qualify under the new guidelines for 100%. So
That's
um,
good.
that would be good. And so,
Yeah.
but it's still, you know, um, doesn't get me to get the surgery and um, trying to see if the surgery alone would alleviate why I'm not walking. But it's like anything else. You
Yeah.
go to the doctor and they try this. Okay, well if that's not working, then they know they can eliminate that area and see what's next, what might be causative of your issues. And that's kind of like where I'm at in my health journey right now is I gotta have the surgery to try to eliminate the stenosis and the impingement, these different things that go on with with your nerves and stuff. And they're all bone sparing and muscle sparing. We're not talking about removing discs. We're not talking about putting rods and cages in.
Yeah.
And so these are very these surgery clinics. They're not new. These guys have been doing these um, laser uh, procedures, and one guy uses a laser, the other guy uses ultrasound, and they've been doing it for over 25 years. They're all peer reviewed. One doctor, he teaches at the DoD, teaches at DARPA. He's a brainiac, and they have great success with their patients, over 86%. And so,
Yeah.
I'd like to get back to have a quality of life so I can start, functioning and help my family and get back
Yeah.
and help other people. And you always feel like um, hey, I'm still able to contribute in some way. And so I got to get to the place where I'm not giving up hope for the things that I want to get done, but I also got to get to the place where, okay, what can I do right now with what I got? And so
Yeah.
it's kind of like where I'm at with the research and stuff that I do, because a lot of people don't um, or can't um, do the research that I do for whatever reason. Either they don't want to do it or they don't
It's
know how
not
to do
their
it. And
interest, I would say.
I don't know
It
how
depends.
anybody could. I'm not like really proficient at um, Word documents or going on to like um, social media or with AI, but I'm learning, and I glean from my daughter. I glean from people like
Yeah.
and you know, there's veterans that I go and talk to at the VA all the time, and they're like, they've got service connected disabilities and they haven't filed a claim yet. I'm like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? What,
Probably up there.
what, are
Or
you,
in
what are
my
you doing?
pocket. Sorry, I was talking
So
about. But
got
oh, go
got to
ahead.
find ways to contribute.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Your research. So a lot of people don't do the research because, or it depends on not in the areas that you do it, uh, because they're not interested. But they do like there's a lot of people who do research in like a lot of different areas, and that's what I had to realize is that like people get people are compartmentalized. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
everyone has a different interest, and you might I talked to people about like COVID before, and it kind of goes like shoo, right? But if I talk to them about like the fair tax, like when, and they'll tell me all kinds of stuff about the fair tax and things going on in the federal government, or if I ask about the Indiana, I have another friend who's really competent on the Indiana Constitution and local politics, and he'll tell me all kinds of stuff that's going on locally, like and all about the Constitution. If I ask about like property taxes, he can tell me like Supreme Court cases and all that stuff. It just everybody's got their I believe like everyone's got their role to play, um, and and with, and again, this is just my opinion. Doesn't mean nothing. Uh, but like so like my dad was kind of the same way. Like my dad got to the point where, but my dad was weird because he always used to annoy me because whenever something bad would happen with like his heart or something, and we end up at the ER because he'd always wait till the last minute to go, and then he he cracked jokes and he'd laugh, or if he fell in the yard, because he's a very like independent guy, so even though he was struggling, he'd go and try and mow the yard, and then he'd end up face down, and my brother would find him outside,
Yeah.
and he'd just crack a joke about it, and like I used to get so mad, but now like because I have back problems, right, and like so some days I'll go to get out of bed and I can't walk. So I'm crawling, I got a stick and I'm pulling myself up, right? And now I just laugh. I start laughing and I'm like and my wife and them look at me like I'm crazy, but it's kind of just like now I understand. Like I understand why my dad like cuz you either have to laugh or you're going to cry about it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there's not much you can do.
Yeah.
Um but when it comes to like, and my dad used to say the same things, like when other people take care of him too. But like I've thought about this, and I don't mean to bring up my dad a lot, but like on the topic, like this is what makes me. I've thought about some of these topics because I know one day I'm probably going to be in the same boat, and my son's going to be, my son and daughter are going to be taking care of me or my wife, So, uh, but at some point, like, because reading going back to our faith, like service and serving those who are struggling, is considered like it's a gift for them, right? So like, while we might be because we're like we're men, we're independent, we're so used to like just
Uh-huh.
everybody relying on us because we take the brunt of uh, everything. Like what I mean? Like don't worry about it. Like I got it. Like you don't have to worry about it. But then there comes a time when we're gonna and we just gotta allow them to step into that role and be blessed through
Yeah.
that role and be able to play that role, which is hard. Um, but like, uh, it's a role that I mean we're all destined to play at some point. We've all played that role, so um, we got to allow them to be able to be blessed through that as well and play that role and not be frustrated with them. Cause I get it, I do. Like when I say I get it, I understand when you say I'm frustrated. Like it's, but then I have to take a deep breath and be like, nope, what for whatever reason God has put, like I'm in this position and this is, but I'm taken care of. So I got people around me taking care of me. So uh, instead
Yeah.
of
You're
like
right.
when you get frustrated, look at it and look at the blessing that you have. You know what I mean? Like, uh, look at it as a blessing, I guess I should say, as much as you can. And as far as being like I promise you, God, you may not feel God, but God is there with you, like all time. Like this is an experience I've had. I've felt the absence of God's presence, and then like it was only for a short time because of some dumb stuff that I was doing. I was in Freemasonry, and I started doing like just believing some dumb stuff. That's a long story.
Yeah.
But then for like 30 seconds, God removed his presence from me. And it was worse than like, I imagine that's the closest you can come on earth to like being in hell. Cause like, it was worse than any pain I've ever felt. Like it was, I don't know how to explain it. But then when he came back, now I know he's there. Even when like, I'm not being the best person, but I know he's there. So all you have to do, like God's just waiting there. He's got thick skin. Like anytime you want to turn back to him, you can't, or you not turn back, but talk to him. Even if you want to vent, like he's there with you through all of this. And he's not. It's not like like I don't know if you ever been to like a kind of church where like if you got problem, like it's cool, but as soon as you go and tell them that you're struggling with something or you have a problem, and then all of a sudden they kind of like shun you, like because
Yeah.
you shouldn't be having that kind of sin or struggling with
Oh
that,
yeah.
like because you know what I mean, like. But the Bible tells us that it says to confess your sin to one another, and pray for one another so it'll be healed, and or you can
Yep.
so uh like like God is there. He's patient. The devil is trying to get he does try to get between you, but like in your suffering, like is when it's an opportunity to be closest to God for whatever reason. Because when you're humbled, like you're able to see God better, and you can take that humbling one or two ways. Like you can shake your fist at him, like as you're going through it, or you can be like, all right, God, like I got you. I trust you. You got me.
Mhm.
Like whatever happens through this, well, however bad it gets, like you're with me. It's and I had to. I like that's something I learned. That's something I do now, and it's not easy. It's really not. But like, because my daughter, when she had like her medical issues, like that was hard for me because there was nothing when she has her seizures, like there's nothing I can do. Like
Yeah.
it's absolutely nothing, and it came out of nowhere. Uh, she didn't have them before, and then just all of a sudden she has them, and it's like, what's going on? Like my daughter's like, she's young, she hasn't done anything like
Yeah.
uh, to desert, like, but it happens, like uh, and like you, like they tried to uh, they tried to give her medicine. So they tried to give her seizure medicine. So she has them like every few months. Like normally in the beginning of the year when the seasons are changing, and then at the end when the seasons are changing because there are allergies and stuff. And then she has uh, pre-diabetes, right?
Yeah.
So uh, yeah, it's a whole thing. But now that we've figured it out, like we've been able to actually manage it to where like last year she had like 3 or 4 seizures. So far, like before this point, this year she's only had one seizure. So it's like it's better. And
Yeah.
but they wanted to put her on uh, some kind of seizure medication that one of the side effects is suicidal. It increases your chances. Suicidal thoughts and stuff like
Yep.
that. And then you can't just get off of it. Like it's one of those things that like once you're on it, you have to like if you do have adverse effects, then you just have to like slowly increment off of it. And I'm like, I don't want to change her personality or take this drug that change her personality, and we don't even
Yeah.
really you don't even really know what's causing it or anything
Yeah.
first. So let's see if we can do some other stuff that's not. But for that whole process, and another experience of mine that was similar to yours, like when you were in the hospital, they had us in the children's wing, and it puts things into perspective. Cause every time I go down, I'd run into a parent in the elevator, right? And like one of the parents' daughter was like just started puking up blood, and they couldn't figure out why. She was in a bad, another person was fighting a form of cancer as well. And then like so every time I came out of the elevator, I'd be praying. Like I go back to my room and I'd be thankful, and I'd be like, man, I was kind of mad at God, like how like why like what is you know she's 10, like what could she have possibly done, like I mean,
Yeah.
like and then I was thankful, and I had this, I was like, sorry, I you know
Yeah.
and so I had, but every time I came out of it, I came out praying for that next that family, like, and then even when I went home, like in my thoughts, like they just pop in my thoughts, I'd be praying for them,
Yeah.
because yeah, that feeling of just helplessness, and like, and I can only imagine, like mine was, you know it was put into perspective, like it's kind of like, you know all right, God, like I guess I overstepped a little bit, it could be much worse. And
Yeah.
it's like, uh I had, I have to. I'm thankful, and at the same time, like it sucks that people are going through this. So now I realize that, uh, like, I make lists in my head. If I ever get money and stuff, like, there's things that I have lists that I'm going to do with that money. I probably won't have money for very long, but uh, like helping people in like I just want to give random money to people in the hospital who are going through like tough situations.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because I get it. Like, then there's sometimes it feels like there's no help, or people just don't get it, and I'm not gonna say I understand 100%, but I try my best to come down to that level and just kind of understand and you know. But like, yeah, you're not alone. God's with you. Like you know, He's still speaking to you. He's coming through for you. He's not leaving you alone. Um, it's, but I get it. It's tough. He,
Well, I'll definitely keep keep that in mind, and um, I appreciate your friendship. Thank you for doing the interview.
yep.
Um, Going forward, what do you have a plan for other interviews? Do you want to keep focused on the uh, the COVID side of things with me? Any new information that I come up with, just let me
Yeah.
know. Um, I'll talk to you about anything, man. I mean, and then if we're not doing an interview, can we FaceTime on Messenger?
Yeah, anytime. Any like if you see just message me, and if I message back, I'll let you know. But 90% of the time I'm at work. I work security. So I have a lot of like that. So anytime you need to message me, you can just message me, and 99% of the time I'll be able to call you.
Well, now that I got a chance to see your face and talk with you, I mean, um, I, I want to talk with you, and I just, I need other men in my life to be able to sharpen me and just, you know, to talk to people. I mean, my life now is uh, more isolated than I've ever been,
So
and you know, I've got three women that I'm living with, and I'm not in the situation where they need me to be. So it's very frustrating for them, and
yeah,
not having the man in their life to be doing the manly things, right? And so they're constantly having to take care of me, and this is not foreign to us. We hospice cared my parents and my wife's parents, and we've helped other family members. We've had homeless people live with us, so this is not new, but it is new in the sense that person that they were relying on to lead them and to do
yeah,
what you want and need them to do. I'm not doing that, and I don't have a lot of um, um, for whatever reason, um, a lot of fellowship for me has kind of gone away because I'm not driving my car, so I'm not at church, and so that
I
fellowship
completely
aspect
understand.
is kind of gone. And so, anytime I can find someone that's willing um, to fellowship, I definitely
Yeah,
accept that. So, thank you, Yeshua.
yeah, anytime. I'm a jabberbox, so like anytime you want to call, like we can talk about whatever you want. Well, in these times, there's plenty to talk about. Like,
Uh-huh.
or even, yeah, just anytime you need to talk, just call me. Like,
So, before we go, because I got to get ready to go, my daughter's going to help me wash up and and help me. She puts medicine and oil on my feet for the neuropathy and stuff, and it's
yeah,
that time of day. She's going to be taking the dogs out here in a second. Can we pray to end
yes,
our
sir,
interview?
yes, sir.
Okay. Ay, ay, ay. Father, I thank you so much for this day. God, that you saw fit for Yeshua and myself to be able to have this conversation, Lord, and talk about these times that we live in. And I thank him for his um, willingness to make this interview. It's recorded, and hopefully, like I said to him in the text, I hope that it would bear fruit, that other people might learn from what happened to my daughter, and just give them insight to be cautious in their life, to ask questions, to do their own research, and to look to other people. Like I'm, now looking to Yeshua, that we need each other. It's very important, and above all that, Lord, I'm just thankful to you, Father, and to your Spirit, that you corrected um, my spirit, and you were able to give Yeshua a yes and amen on his part. That you know we were better than an argument, and that we were brothers in Christ, and you did not want us to have division, and that was something from Satan. So um,
Yes, sir.
thank you, God, that you encouraged us to overcome our flesh nature, and that we can pursue um, our brotherhood in Christ, and to be there for each other. And I'm just I'm just grateful that I have a new friend, Father. I thank you. Um, this 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 gentleman is somebody that I can see we'll be able to leave this world and enter heaven together, and hand in hand and arm in arm. And I see him as a warrior fighting for the cause of freedom and liberty. And those are principles, God, that you gave us. Those are the inalienable rights that you produced for all humanity. And so to preserve our Constitution, God, we need people like Yeshua. He's one to give his time to, um, the body politic, and just hope that he can continue to make ways. And I ask, God, that you give him favor, and continue to open doors for him, so that his influence on other people would be able to shape our freedom and our liberty in this state. And I'm grateful, Father. I thank you so much, Lord.
And then, uh, let me pray for you real quick, because the Spirit has been telling me to pray for you about your back. So,
Amen.
if you don't mind, may
Yeah, I would love.
I? Uh, Dear Heavenly Father, I want to pray for um, what's your name?
Gerard.
Gerard. I'm sorry, I have a
Hey, you
bad
know what? You
memory.
could just you a lot of my friends just call me G.
G.
I'm good
Okay,
with G.
sure.
It's
Yeah,
easy.
I'm terrible with names. You can
Uh,
ask my wife.
Yeshua, I'm telling you, it's endearing. I love it. Just you call
Yeah.
me G.
So okay, I'll call you G. Uh, uh, Dear Heavenly Father, I want to pray for G's back, and I pray that you will heal it, either miraculously or that you will provide the path for him to get the surgeries that he needs, so that he can feel better. And I pray that those surgeries will help, and that you will guide the doctors that will treat him, and move the hearts that need to be moved, so that he can get the care that he needs. But I pray that you would touch his back with your loving hands and your healing hands, and your ministering spirits will be with him and protect him and his family, and that you would they would keep his steps, and that you would bless his family, so that they shall not want, and that their storehouses shall always be full. In Yeshua HaMashiach's name I pray to you, Father, Yehovah. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Absolutely. Amen.
Yeah.
All right, my
Ah,
friend.
yep.
So let's just ping pong on Messenger, and if you got time to talk, I'll ask you, and vice versa, and let's just keep in touch, okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You have a good day.
What part of town? What part of town do you live in?
Uh, well, hold on. Let me stop the recording real quick. Uh, I'll tell you.